every one of you. Welcome to the the February 27th, 2025 Columbia Association Board of Directors meeting. Have a few housekeeping things to handle here, and then we'll move on with the balance of the meeting. First thing we need to do is do our roll call. Let's see. Ashley,
Here.
Sky, Paul,
Here.
Reg,
Here.
Karen,
Here.
Mike,
Here.
Eric,
Here.
Colin,
Here.
Chris. We do not have Chris. All right, and I am here. Very good. Oh, and I'm sorry, Sean.
Here.
Okay. Few notes for my fellow board members. We are once again using temporary microphones. These are not nearly as sensitive as the ones we normally use. So please make sure that they're on and you speak directly in them tonight so everybody can hear the meeting. There we go. Let's see. Closed meetings, we did have a closed meeting just prior to this meeting, but those particulars are being written up and that will be announced at our next meeting. Few things about our meeting tonight. As for those of you in the room clearly know, we are here at the Columbia Association headquarters and we're conducting both live in person, and we are also have the ability to do hybrid online interaction. This is being live streamed out on YouTube, and it will be available as a recording in about a day or so on YouTube. So thank you all for that. We have a large number of people here. If you have a personal device, please put it on mute, vibrate, or at best turn it off. I think a lot of people in this room tonight want to be heard, and I don't want any of their testimony to be stepped on by a phone going off or ringing. So let's all be respectful of one another. Thank you for that. Let's see. Moving on, next is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Reg has moved. Do we have a second? Karen, Sky, which one wants it? Oh, okay, we'll go with you, Karen. I saw your hand first, but thank you for the enthusiasm, Sky. All right. All right. Here we go. We'll call a question here.
Is there,
Yes, Karen.
I would like to amend the consent agenda.
Okay.
I would like to move the appointment of the treasurer to new business.
Okay. That is since it was on the consent agenda, we would normally want to move that to old business so we could take a vote on that.
Totally fine.
Okay, so we'll move it to old.
Yes.
Very good. Any objection? Okay, so we will move it as amended. Okay, this is a vote to approve the agenda, moving the appointment of the treasurer to old business. We will call the question. Ashley,
Yes.
Sky,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Reg,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mike, Eric,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So that will go down as 8-1-0. Motion to approve the agenda as amended is passes. All right. There we are. Now, next up is Columbia update. Sean?
I think in the interest of time, we don't have anything urgent or pressing on the Columbia.
Okay.
We'll be back.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. We will then move on to resident speak out. Few notes about resident speak out tonight. Individuals will have 3 minutes to speak. People representing a group will have 5 minutes. We do have a large number of people here tonight, and I'm sure there's going to be a variety of subjects, and we welcome your comment and input. However, if someone else gets a chance to speak and your testimony is largely duplicative of what that prior person had said, we would appreciate it if you would just say, I support what Thomas said or whoever was before you. And I'm going to make a blanket request of everybody here. If you have testimony, please email the board so that we have it and we can collect it and digest it in a thoughtful way. So we'll do that for everybody, please. Okay. All right. Those are the ground rules. Colin, you'll be our timekeeper. Very good. First person up is Kat Wee. Kat, are you here? Yes. Hi. Good evening.
Hi, I'm here to testify on behalf of our Revolution Howard County, giving me 5 minutes. I'm here about WR Grace project. I know that's on your agenda today, and I'm here to state that the so-called plastics recycling, I'm going to do this for recycling because we know plastics recycling is a myth, and it really is an actual recycling. Products that result from chemical recycling are often not turned into plastic again. Recent U.S. Department of Energy study found that pyrolysis and gasification had very low yields, with only 0.1% to 14% of the inputs turned into outputs that are suitable for reuse as plastic. Analysis conducted by the Natural Resources Defense Council shows that most of the 8 so-called chemical recycling facilities in the U.S. are not actually recycling any plastic. Chemical recycling generates hazardous air pollution, large amounts of hazardous waste. As noted in a July 2022 letter signed by 35 members of Congress, chemical recycling facilities emit highly toxic chemicals, including benzene, xylenes, and dioxins, many of which are linked to cancer, nervous system damage, negative effects on reproduction and development. Companies like WR Grace, who I will call a serial polluter because they have been in the news. There was a movie they co-starred in with John Travolta called A Civil Action. They are repeat polluters, and they've polluted right here in Columbia, Maryland as well. And the EPA has asked them to clean up the toxic waste. They tell us to trust them. We have houses 70 meters away from this so-called plastics recycling. This is not safe for anyone, and as the Columbia Association is a board that people respect, I expect you to stand up for our neighbors who live in Columbia, children, women, elderly people, people who are very vulnerable to these kinds of emissions, and not to mention that these plastics are extremely flammable, so possibly fires, that you state you are not welcome to have this plastics recycling going on right near a neighborhood. And I just testified yesterday in favor of HB 1092, which would ban plastics recycling. That was introduced by Jen Terrassa. I spent most of the day in Annapolis yesterday. I think this is an easy thing for all of you. Most of you are here today, which is nice to see, to come and state, WR Grace, you're not welcome to do this project here, not near our residents. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for Kat? All right, thank you very much. All right. Stu Cohen is up next, and Christine Amari will follow Stu, followed by Lisa Kraus. I'm sorry. Yes, Stu.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Stu Cohn. I'm the president of the Howard County Citizens Association. Thank you. We are extremely pleased that in 2017, the CA board partnered with us and you gave us $5,000 for a film, Columbia at 50, A Bridge to the Future. You can watch this on our website, howardcountyhcca.org. A lot of the meaning of Columbia, it's not only about Columbia, but it's about all of Howard County, the film. We were the force behind the 2014 CA Newtown report that was presented to the board by Jane Demner. See the February 12, 2015 minutes. The question we all have is, after 10 years, what is the future of Columbia, and what action will this board take? We ask because the complacency of the CA boards has been, for the most part, complacent. When was the last time that CA testified in front of the council on behalf of their residents for causes which concern them? Why did you not choose to testify regarding CB 11, 2025, especially to support those residents in River Hill and Hickory Ridge, which you just heard, who are potentially affected if you believe in the best interest of their health and safety and will not be in jeopardy? We submitted our testimony to the county council to you. You should have that. We, like others, are very concerned you have not acted on such major issues as the control of covenants, design guidelines, new town zoning, the forthcoming Gateway project, the effect of adequate public facilities, APFO, regarding safety and health, and comprehensive rezoning. There is a Chinese proverb which states, quote, "Vision without action is a daydream, while action without vision is a nightmare," unquote. So we ask, what is the real vision of Columbia? Will you start to take action to demonstrate to your residents that you do indeed care? We are perplexed that Sean McManus has not had the courtesy to take the time to respond to our invitation to meet with our board. We would like to discuss the pros and cons to try to obtain dialogue for future misunderstanding and potential improvements. Twice emails were sent to Mr. McManus to meet with HCCA, but the courtesy of response was never received. We are extremely disappointed. Your failure to respond shows that CA simply does not care to discuss the concerns of your residents. If this is the case, then your website needs to be revised by deleting the words, quote, "your input matters," unquote. When concerned residents register to testify, we do suggest you consider periodically conducting town hall meetings to inform all CA members of your plans and strategy for the future. We would appreciate you take the necessary actions to discuss the vision of the future of Columbia. Your residents are depending on you to act now and be involved with your concerns. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stu. Do we have any questions? All right, thanks so much. Thanks for your input tonight. Christina Mari, followed by Lisa Kraus.
Hi, this is Christina Mari. I'm speaking as a resident tonight. I wanted to state my opposition to the proposed changes to the management of CA's community buildings. I guess, having been a resident of 2 villages and Hickory Ridge for the past 10 years, I feel like the village does such an amazing job of putting on the events that they do and renting out the spaces. I feel like, I've attended so many amazing events that are just really well run, and kind of the personal touch of having it done by our village, I think really works well. I think it makes it, easier for people to understand, like what is specific to the buildings that the events are hosted in. And it's just running really well right now. I get positive feedback from neighbors all the time about the different events that are hosted, story time for like parents with young kids, the puzzle nights and other events for adults. People, like just this past weekend, I was on in a scout event, and somebody was telling me just how amazing the puzzle night that she was just at. So, I just mostly just trying to say, like, it's working so well, and it's something that I really appreciate about our village. And, kind of if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. And, I just have some concerns about transferring over to a model with less involvement by the village staff, just, more wear and tear and broken items, because there's going to be less direct communication with the folks who are actually like familiar with the buildings, just disconnects in general and extra overhead. So thank you for listening.
Christine, thank you for your comments. Does anybody from the board have any questions? No. Thank you again. Thanks for participating tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, Lisa Kraus, then followed by Shamika Preston, and then Amy Bennett.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Welcome,
great.
Lisa.
All right, thank you. Greetings, members of the Columbia Association Board. My name is Lisa Kraus. I'm a resident of River Hill Village, and I'm here to speak out today on behalf of the Stop Grace Plastic Project about County Bill 11/2025. The bill pertains to a very critical issue affecting both Columbia and Howard County as a whole concerning W.R. Grace's plans to install a plastics research and development facility near my home in River Hill. Tonight, the Stop Grace Plastic Project is asking the CA Board to pass a resolution in support of County Bill 11/2025. Back in August 2024, I helped to co-found the Stop Grace Plastic Project with other River Hill, Cedar Creek, and Hickory Ridge residents. We started an online petition at that time to collect signatures from Howard County residents opposed to Grace's plans, its plastics facility. As of now, that petition has 830 signatures, of which 99.9% are from Howard County. And of those signatures, over 50% it's about 51.5%, represent households of 4 or more. The signatures accrue daily on this petition, and the reasons are quite simple. People do not want a polluting plastics facility like the one Grace is proposing situated in and near their residential communities. The Grace campus is immediately adjacent to the Cedar Creek neighborhood, with many houses no more than 70 meters away. The campus is less than a mile from the boundary of my village, River Hill. It's also centrally located near to Hickory Ridge, King's Contrivance, and Oakland Mills, as well as other Columbia residences and neighborhoods. In November 2024, the Howard County Planning Board unanimously recommended that the County Council develop legislation to respond to this proposed project. The Planning Board sided with residents that a facility like this should not be situated so close to residential homes due to the potential hazards, including toxic emissions, risks of fires, leaks, and explosions. The Planning Board's recommendation resulted in County Bill 11/2025, which will be voted on this coming Monday night, March 3rd at 7 p.m. at the George Howard Building in Ellicott City. The stakes could not be higher. A project like this one with so many ill impacts on health and with so many safety issues simply does not belong in residential communities, especially ones as committed to promoting health, well-being, and safety as Columbia is. The independent science on this issue is clear. The chemical conversion of plastics, which is what Grace will do, even at a pilot scale, emits toxic substances. These so-called chemical recycling facilities release pollutants that can be dangerous regardless of the R&D size or scale of the project. Even small R&D facilities release pollutants, and these pollutants have no safe threshold for exposure. According to an independent review of Grace's Maryland Department of Environment air permit application by a chemical engineer for the Maryland House of Delegates, Delegate Jennifer Terrassa, quote, W.R. Grace only presents that 0.218 pounds of VOCs will be emitted daily. However, they don't give the chemical makeup of the VOCs being emitted. VOCs are highly carcinogenic and even at that volume should not be released to the public, unquote. So this is just one of the scientific data points that's been uncovered with the air application by Grace. There are many other holes in their application that underreport other emissions issues. Again, not to mention the leaks, fires, and possibility of explosions. So on February 18th and 19th, during the County CB 11/2025 hearings for the bill, residents gave impassioned testimony against this proposed facility, while Grace employees gave testimony defending their project as being safe for the community. Currently, as we approach Monday night's final vote on the bill, many Howard County Council members have been trying to dodge this issue. New amendments are currently being made to the bill to strengthen it and to respond to some council members' concern that the bill is only targeting W.R. Grace. That assertion is incorrect given the current amendments being made, which should be available online tonight on the County Council's website. So CB 11/2025 targets the chemical conversion and incineration of plastics operations. It's targeting an industry, not a company. This is so important to understand. So currently, this industry can be located in our residential communities. So it's important to note that this bill would disallow this and only allow for it to take place in M2 zoning districts in Howard County. So it's not being banned. Instead, it's targeting a specific industry and allowing for it to only be conducted in the proper zoning areas, which is how things should be in Columbia and Howard County. So we're asking the board.
Lisa,
Am I
we're
way
about
over?
out of time. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're a little bit
So
over.
just
I have a
asking
lot of
you.
people tonight.
All right, just asking you to please pass a resolution tonight in support of CB 11/2025, the bill with its amendments that Deb Young is creating.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I have a question from Reg Avery here for you.
Sure.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, I was at the city council meeting when they did the presentation. I was there to be selected for a commission. But I was noticing, I had to wait until all the
Oh,
kids, all the
yes,
your people were testifying.
I
And
remember.
Yeah, I was, I learned a lot that day, but
Yes.
something I heard to make it correct for me is how close, what's the nearest residential area to that proposed, site?
So
And
see,
why do they choose Howard County?
well,
you know
so
that.
the Grace campus has been here, I think, for over 50 years. But the Cedar Creek development is a newer development. It's not a Columbia Association village, but it is right next door to the Grace campus. There are houses that are about 70 meters away from the campus and about 70 meters away from where this recycling, this, chemical conversion of plastics facility will be located. And you probably heard some of that testimony. So Cedar
did.
Creek is, I mean, they abut where the facility will go. River Hill is within a mile. The boundary of my community is within a mile of the campus. So when you're talking about emissions, when you talk about the small quantities that can still be very detrimental to health, it's really about which way the wind blows and the drift. So, and plus if there's worse things that happen, which, this equipment apparently is prone to fires. It has happened in other facilities across the country.
Okay.
So it's really problematic.
Thank you, Lisa. And
Thank you.
I'm pleased that you can hear us tonight. I'm glad we cleared that up. So
I know. Yes, I'm so happy. I was worried about that.
I got to move on. Oh,
Okay.
hold on.
Thank
Eric
you.
has a
I
question
do
for you.
have a-
Oh,
I
okay.
apologize.
I do
Eric,
have a-
Mr. Greenberg?
I do have a quick question. So you said that this bill affects an industry, not just one company.
Correct.
Can you identify any other companies or areas within the county that are also impacted by this bill?
So, Kat, who testified just a few moments ago, who spoke out, was in Annapolis yesterday. I also attempted to testify, but I was unable to. Unfortunately, I was doing it virtually. I had a meeting, but during the testimony that was given there was a bill that is to ban chemical recycling, facilities in the state of Maryland. And the chemical companies turned out and they gave testimony against the bill. So my understanding is that there was about 3 other, and please don't quote me on this, but I saw, pretty sure I saw the chemical companies listed when I uploaded my testimony. So I think there was approximately 3 or more. And it's an indication that they are interested. I mean, this is a whole new market. People are very excited about it, but it's been around for a long time. It's not been successful. There's been abysmal results, and it's highly polluting. So there is interest from chemical companies coming into Maryland. It's important that counties figure out how they're going to respond to this. And when you're allowing for these kinds of processes to take place in and among residential communities, that's a problem. So we do need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of our residents. And, whomever wants to continue to work on the issue at the state level is more than welcome to. But, Howard County and Columbia play such an important part. What you do signals to the rest of the county how we should view this issue.
All right. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments and answering all the questions. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Great. Thank
We're going
you.
to move on to Shamika Preston, then Amy Bennett, and then Brigada Warren. Brigida, my apologies.
Okay, hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Shamika?
Yes, this is Shamika.
Yes,
How
hi,
are
we
you?
can hear you.
Okay, my husband and I are both here. I have written testimony, but Lisa did such a good job that I'm not even going to read it. But I am here because I would like for you all to create a resolution to support CB 11/2025. But I wanted to answer some of that question, the last question about, are there other companies who are interested in doing this? So in addition to WR Grace, there were 3 companies who testified against the state bill. And one was called Altera. It's an Ohio-based company interested in building chemical recycling plants in Maryland. Braven Braven is a company who partnered with Grace in North Carolina, and they had some pretty bad environmental issues within the last year. And then the fourth one was called Lyondell Basel, and they're based in Bethesda, and they are opening chemical recycling plants. They listed a couple of states in Texas and some other states and in Germany. And they were saying that people are like, states are, begging them to come. Now, I think that there probably are a bunch of states who are begging them to come, because what happens is once you have one chemical recycling plant, you want either more want to come to you, or you want more because, why not? You have the, you'll get whatever they're bringing to you, you'll get, the company investing in your town. And so what happens is that once one is there, you tend to get more. And without protective zoning laws, we would have potentially have similar issues. My husband just flagged something very important. I live in Cedar Creek, and my house abuts the fence between the 200 feet between my house and Grace is a fence, and 200 feet beyond that is the building where they want to do the pyrolysis facility. And there are actually houses that are closer than mine. So when, the other person asked about how close, we're talking about really, really close. And then I'll answer a question that I've heard people ask, which is, well, why did you buy your house there? So a lot of us thought that, or were told that the Grace campus was the corporate headquarters, which it is, and that it had administrative buildings only. And so it wasn't until they requested the air permit from the Maryland Department of the Environment that we even found out that there were a lot more things going on from an air emissions perspective and what they really intended to do with their plant. And I will stop there. I don't know how much time I have left, but if you have questions, I can probably answer a few.
Jamika, you were right on time, right at 3 minutes. It's amazing, remotely how well you did that. Thank you very much.
Woohoo,
I do
no
have
problem.
questions in the room for you. I see Mr. Eric Greenberg's hand is up. He has a question for you.
Just really quick, do you know what the state bill number is, the state bill that you're referring to?
Ooh, Lisa probably knows. I want to say it's docket number 16-23.
What?
HB 1092, I stated them at the beginning. I think it's HB 1092 and HB 1050.
Okay, thanks.
All
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry. Is that, I thought
Okay.
you said the MDE number. I thought you were talking about the application. My apologies.
Okay. All right. Thanks again. Thanks for coming tonight.
Okay, thanks for having us.
Amy Bennett, who I can see. Oh, sorry. Sure.
Good.
What would you like to know?
We have a lot to say this evening.
That's true, but we have many, many people here.
Requires a motion for it to extend.
If you would like to make a motion?
No, it requires a motion to extend.
Okay, so you're saying you would not like to make a motion? Okay,
Motion to extend.
okay. How long would you like to extend, Karen? An hour? Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Let me get my paper going here.
There discussion on the motion?
Eric, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of that. I appreciate it. So that's Karen and Eric. All right, do we have any discussion? Eric?
So historically, as long as I've been on the board, we've basically entertained all the residents that can't come to speak out. So sometimes the list is small, sometimes the list is large. But to the best of my knowledge, since I've been on the board, we've never cut it off at 20 minutes or so many people. So I think it's important for us as a board to listen to our community and hear what they have to say.
All right, thank you, Eric. I appreciate your comment. Anything else? Ashley?
Sure, I agree. It's important that we hear what our community has to say. I do want to point out that in the agenda and on the sign up form, it is mentioned that there may be a limit to the number of residents based on how many sign up. And all are definitely welcome to email us whatever their testimony is. However, if we extend an hour, we are looking at getting through our topics no earlier than 11 p.m., which is all critical business to the functioning of Columbia Association as well.
Any other? Just to that point, I will extend that about 11 o'clock, the building alarm starts going off of the building. So be ready for that. All right, hearing no other discussion, let's take the vote. Let's see, Colin. Let me state the motion, please. Motion to extend 1 hour for resident speak out. Colin?
Can you come back?
Yes. Eric?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
Karen?
Yes.
Reg?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Sky? Ashley?
No.
Colin?
No.
And I'm going to vote yes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4,
Thank you, sir.
5 for yes. 4 for no, 0. Motion passes 5-4-0.
Thank you on behalf of the community.
Okay. Ms. Bennett, I have you listed as virtual, but thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it.
I thought it was important to be here in person.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. My name is Amy Bennett, and I reside in the village of Long Reach. I am also a member of the Long Reach Village Board, and I'll be speaking on my own behalf this evening. I'm here to express my concern about the current village contract options and to provide what I believe is a reasonable solution to the current situation. As described, the village contract discussions proceeded with input from the village managers, board chairs, and CA staff. This process seemed to be working very well until CA staff alone developed the options for responding to the issues raised by the villages. As a result, in my opinion, and those of many others, the options presented are not in the best interest of our residents. At the last CA board meeting, River Hill board members stated, quote, "I was deeply concerned to learn that CA had proposed to take control over our community buildings in the villages. I hope this is just an idea and it just remains an idea," end quote. So it seems like he was surprised as well. Columbia resident Sue Bannister summarized the impact of the proposed attempt by CA to take control of the buildings in the following way, quote, "The income from the village buildings managed by each village brings in revenue for the benefit of local community for neighborhood services and activities. Losing this revenue will cut the village budgets and the activities each provide. All 10 villages are in agreement about the importance of that source of revenue for the community. CA already gets a large and expanding chunk of residents' money. The village must continue to manage and use the revenue from their local facilities, not CA. CA is overreaching on this one. I believe the solution is simple. Maintain the status quo for 1 year with appropriate increase, and then focus the process you started and mutually develop the options for any needed change. Then brief the CA board, allow village reps to discuss with their village boards, and provide time for community input. This is necessary given the options presented by CA represent a major change to the relationship between CA and the villages. I have watched every single village grow, develop. The villages are in the best position to articulate the needs of its residents. In conclusion, I would like to go on record in strong opposition to the 6 o'clock meeting that was held in private without community input. Strong opposition. Thank you for your time this evening and consideration of the solution I have proposed.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Any questions from the board? Mike?
You
Be
said
careful.
that all 10 villages support this?
I said, Mike, and I'll read you exactly what I said. And this is from Sue Bannister. All 10 villages are in agreement about the importance of the source of revenue for their community, period.
Okay. And so as long as the revenue is still there.
I'm not going to, here's the deal. We don't like the options. We don't like them. We prefer Columbia Villages be run by Columbia Villages. You don't know us. You may know your village, but you don't know us in Long Reach. Any other questions?
All right. All right, Amy, thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming out tonight. Brigitta Warren, and Kevin Bruning, and then Laura Mayton. Brigitta? Brigitta, my apologies. I'm doing my best here.
No worries. People mispronounce my name all the time.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. And I see some of my other village managers are standing up behind me. So good evening. My name is Brigitta Warren, and I'm here this evening as the proud village manager of Oakland Mills Community Association, one of the 10 community villages. I am here tonight with full support from the Oakland Mills Village Board. I am here on behalf of the staff that work to keep village center buildings open and thriving. And most importantly, I am here on behalf of the thousands of residents who make up each one of our 10 villages, the residents who pay their annual share to the Columbia Association, the residents who participate in annual village elections to vote who they believe will work best for them, the residents who enjoy the village community events and activities, and the residents who many times have specifically chose the village they live in because of its unique personality. As a village manager, it is with great pride that I manage each of the 4 facilities that Columbia Association has provided for Oakland Mills Community Association to take care of and preserve. It is the village managers and their staff who keep all the village center buildings visible, active, and relevant in today's ever-changing world. Village facilities are used for life events such as weddings, graduations, retirements, and memorial services. They are also a community meeting space at an affordable rate, available for a community festival or perhaps a craft fair. These village facilities are known in a variety of entities, including, but certainly not limited to, the wedding industry, the PTAs of local schools, the community HOAs, small nonprofits, and so much more. Tonight, you as the CA board will be presented with a PowerPoint that includes basic information about the facilities that the village managers manage. This presentation will provide bar graphs that at first glance may seem the village center spaces are not being utilized as well as they should be. It may appear at first glance that there is so much more money to be made. Please know, this is not the whole picture. Please know that this information excludes important variables that, if provided, present a truer picture. The village managers were given this presentation 3 weeks ago. We were asked to provide feedback. We voiced our concerns and asked our many questions. Based on this surface presentation, CA staff will want you to believe their option that they are seeking is the best solution and will help the villages in filling their spaces. We did not actually ask for their help. This is not the whole picture. I ask you tonight to allow the villages to continue to offer individualized personal services to our clients. Each village successfully runs their facilities as their needs dictate. Trying to make a one-size-fits-all solution discounts the individuality of each facility's offerings and requirements. The village managers and their staffs are good stewards of the Columbia Association buildings and work in the best interest of their village and residents. I invite each single one of you, if you have not already, to visit the other barn or one of our 3 neighborhood centers, and I am confident that any of the village managers and any of the facilities would also welcome you to visit their facilities at any time and talk to them and their staff about the challenges and rewards of running and managing the facilities. Thank you very much, and thank you to the other village managers who are here this evening.
All right, thank you for your testimony. I do appreciate it. Thank you, and I think we'll be hearing from a few of them too. So, any questions from the board? All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Page 2. Kevin Bruning, then Laura, then Alan Schneider. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Chairman Santos and the members of the Columbia Council. I'm Kevin Bruning. I'm here tonight as an individual. I'm not testifying tonight on behalf of RHCA or my employer. I want to thank everyone on the Columbia Council for your commitment to community service. I think it's great to hear different ideas from time to time, and ultimately I think that there's common ground that can be found. Last meeting, I asked the CA board to make a motion to increase the line item in the budget for the village charge share to $4,143,000. I ask that again. This would restore village funding to fiscal year 2019 levels of 8.3% of Columbia assessment revenue. I also suggested that the CEO instruct the village managers to work with CA to address the funding formula and provide a final funding formula by a date sufficient to be included in the fiscal year 2026 budget. To my first point, a petition started this Tuesday, 48 hours ago, circulated around River Hill, is asking Columbia Association to restore village funding, quote, restore village funding and save the Columbia Village system, unquote, and to, quote, save River Hill from Columbia Association funding cuts, unquote. This petition started 48 hours ago, currently has over 204 signatures. I will note this is around the same number of people responding to the CA budget survey. Different than the purported results of the survey, this petition is asking you to fully fund the villages. As you will hear tonight, people are growing tired of CA slowness in approving the contract and want their villages fully funded. While thought-provoking, the building management proposal throws in the mix a whole new variable that, in my opinion, is way too late in the process. We need to get away from the legal and legalistic discussions and focus more on what this community needs to grow. And on that point, I asked the question recently, what did CA pay for our buildings? According to the Maryland State Department of Assessment and Taxation, in November of 1999, Howard Research and Development completed construction of the Claret Hall Clubhouse and conveyed said clubhouse and land to One Columbia Association for the hefty sum of $0. A few years before that, also according to Maryland State Department of Assessment and Taxation, Howard Research and Development completed construction of the pool and shower building known as the meeting room and also conveyed that to CA for a hefty sum of, you guessed it, $0.
All right, Kevin, if you could just wrap up, please.
I will, thank you. In closing, I will say that each village is unique, and part of the unique nature of each village are the amenities and services offered, but many have faced cuts over the last 6 years. Fixing the problem through increasing the charge share allocation and adjusting the formula is the right answer, not taking over the buildings. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Do we have any questions? All right, thanks so much for your testimonies tonight.
Thank you.
We have Laura, then Alan Schneider, and then Steve Hanan. Hanan?
Bill, I'm gonna cede my time. Brigida Warren was so eloquent and stated the point so well that I'm just going to let you guys off and stand behind her.
Laura, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you for your comments. All right, Mr. Schneider? Then Steve, and then Sharon Boyes.
My name is Alan Schneider. I'm here speaking as an individual. I'm here to listen to the many issues that have been raised, and I'll also be looking at the written testimony that would be submitted. I assume that it's going to be available to the public because I'll be looking forward to what the CA board itself does as a board in response to the questions raised and the issues raised before you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, Steve Hanan. Steve. All right. Sharon. Okay. Sharon Boys. Well, I caught you mid-sip. My apologies. It's a good idea. You want to come up with you don't want to have a dry throat. So very good. And
Thank you.
just before you get started, I just want to keep everybody up next after you will be Guan Yuan. I apologize for that. Michelle Payne and then Joel Hurwitz. So my apologies. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. Good evening, board members, neighbors, and Mr. McGinnis. Thank you for your time and commitment to our community and for this opportunity. My name is Sharon Boyce, and I'm representing Protect Our Streams this evening. Maryland's natural native stream corridors and stream ecosystems are invaluable, irreplaceable, and finite. These ecosystems are complex, biodiverse, and uniquely individual. They're threatened habitats and quickly beginning to vanish with our permission and perhaps unintentional blessing. Maryland's remaining fragments of forest and forested stream corridors provide tremendous benefits to the surrounding communities and the environment in multitudinous ways. Mature forests sequester carbon, produce oxygen, filter greenhouse gases, provide shade and counter heat island effects. They capture up to 50% of the precipitation that falls in the watershed, and they absorb nutrients and stormwater runoff. They capture and retain silt and sediment, and they replenish and purify the groundwater. Mature forests and trees provide critical food and habitat for insects, bats, birds, and mammals. They provide opportunities for forest bathing, bird watching, and other healthy recreational activities, and a necessary human-to-nature connection. Mature trees reduce noise and light pollution. They provide a buffer from wind and the elements. These ecosystems improve our quality of life. Our neighborhood forest and stream in Longfellow were part of a 6-mile-long wildlife corridor. When the diesel-powered construction machinery showed up to perform the stream restoration in the heart of our neighborhood, our wildlife had 5 choices: flee for their lives, be crushed to death, be excavated away, be pumped out of the stream, or suffocate in the warm, deoxygenated water. Our neighborhood had no idea what to expect. We thought we were helping the bay. The plans for the re-restoration provided by MDE would use a lot of the same techniques as the first restoration performed, including using pumps nicknamed by the industry as fish grinders and hoses to suck the stream out of one place and deposit it into another. They would construct access roads to the open space to get to the stream, storage areas, temporary bridges, and there would even be more tree removal. We have repeatedly requested for CA to please bring in an independent expert for consultation, to no avail thus far. I believe many of you in this room only support stream restorations because you have been greenwashed into believing these projects are somehow beneficial or necessary. But I'm also concerned that some of you think you must support these projects because you support development and have been led to believe these projects are required to produce necessary mitigation credits for purchase by developers of sensitive habitats and MS4 water pollution credits. I'm worried that you think you're obligated to support them for development to continue, but that's simply not true. There are 31 other practices that produce TMDL water pollution credits, such as bioretentions and tree planting. Developers do not have to buy credits from private for-profit mitigation banks that sell credits and perform stream restorations. If a developer can't mitigate their environmental harm on site, they can purchase credits from the Non-Tidal Wetland Compensation Fund. Stream restorations do not mitigate tropical storms, new silt, sediment, phosphorus, nitrogen, grease, road oil, fecal matter, and pet waste, sediment from water main breaks, chloride, road salt, and other de-icing chemicals, rubber bits from tires, PFAS, pesticides, herbicides, PCBs or antifreeze, trash, fine particulate matter, hot rainwater coming off a street, or anything else that goes down storm drains. They allow profit and credits for continued pollution and destruction of fragile and unique, one-of-a-kind, irreplaceable habitats for millions of dollars. And they have absolutely no business in or benefit to Columbia. We're smarter than that. I absolutely appreciate that CA is willing to ask the contractor to reduce the environmental harm of the new proposal, and this toll it will be taken on the residents and the wildlife. But we need to look out for ourselves. CA really should take the time to hire an independent consultant. With all the chaos and gun violence going on in our world, we don't need unnecessary self-produced chaos in the management of our village centers. We don't want extra pollutants in the air we breathe, and we certainly don't need chaos in our forests, streams, and open spaces. Now's the time for unity in our community and to look out for each other and not division.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sharon.
Thank you.
All right. Reg has a question for you.
Hey, Sharon,
Hi.
two quick questions. First one is, you have mentioned repeatedly, and so has Bob Dover, that we need to hire a specialist, an expert. I'm a soldier, not a hydrologist, but what is it, what kind of expert do you want? What you're looking for?
Thank you for asking. There are experts in watershed restoration, and they look at the entire picture and the tributary streams and the stream that may be being impacted by those tributaries. And they work with the community to put BMPs in place to capture the runoff before it reaches the stream. Sometimes they will agree that there are techniques that may need to be performed in a small section of stream or two. It's not that these are people who would be like, oh, you know, we're not supporting any stream restoration, but I just feel like in Maryland, everybody knows everybody. I mean, I know that they do. And the MDE and the Army Corps and Ecotone are going to do what they feel needs to be done at this point. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that might be what's best for our stream at this point in time. And I would like CA to bring somebody in who would be looking out for us and not the contractor or the regulatory agencies, but somebody who would say what is best for us. And do we need a surety bond for the future? And if so, how much? And should we extend our maintenance agreement with the SHA and so on?
So my second, thank you. So my second question is, are actually concerned. I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when they first did the renovation to, or stream restoration, there was something like 3,500 trees or something like that.
Well,
And then whatever that number was, that several years later, that a great percentage of those trees were dead or non-existent anymore. And then they had to load up 900 more trees. Am I getting that right? Is that what happened?
kind of, sort of. So, yeah, they removed like just under 1,100 mature trees. But, you know, these are the large trees. They're not all the small trees or the you know, the understory. Well, not even saplings. Like some trees, like ironwoods, for example, will never, ever reach the size of what these contractors would consider to be mature trees. Their species just don't grow that large. So they're just not even counted. Or service berries would be another, or spice bush. These are really important to our ecosystem and they're not even counted. So it's literally thousands of trees that get taken out, but they took just under 1,100. And then in the third year, according to the monitoring reports and inventories, the reforestation success rate fell down to 34%. And that fall of 2023, they planted, I think it was 733 trees, give or take. And CA also planted some trees, like our Columbia Cares group. And I think Ashley's mentioned she was involved in some tree planting. So, you know, I'd say it'd be fair to say we've put 1,000 trees all together, everybody's efforts back in. So at this point, as long as these trees continue to survive, a couple of years from now. I don't think that that's as much of a concern as it was. It's the condition of the stream. You know, our stream was like an aquarium, and it's just not coming back. And this is not unexpected. This is what the studies show. We could have guessed this, and it's just responding the way that
Karen,
they do.
If you could wrap up.
Sure.
I've
Yep,
got
that's
another
it.
page of
That's it.
people.
Yep.
I appreciate your comments. It's just.
Oh,
we've
no,
got-
I understand. Believe me, I do. Yep.
All right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Yep.
All right. Guang Yuan. I apologize. Was I close with the pronunciation there, sir?
That's fine.
My apologies.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Guang Yuan. I live in River Hill Village, and my family have lived in River Hill for more than 12 years. My son went to River Hill High and the University of Maryland. I'm a PhD chemical engineer. I worked for Grace for more than 12 years as a research engineer. I'm here to urge you to not support CB 11 2025. 30 years before, Grace developed a pilot testing unit with continuous catalyst circulation. Today, we operate several around the world and licensed more than 20 of the units to other companies. The new pilot testing unit we are discussing for plastic is based on the same design. So which is one reason we know that we can operate the new pilot plant safely. As the leading engineers design the pilot plant, I can testify it complies with the most recent design codes for the structure, electrical, and the process safety. We consulted many external engineering firms to validate our plans and have built-in safety features to ensure the project have no impact on the health or well-being of our employees and our neighbors. We will not install a commercial operation for any type on our Columbia campus because this is an R&D site, and the size of the pilot plant is just like a single car garage. Also, the emissions and the impact from our project has been grossly mischaracterized and misunderstood. Use all the available public information. I can put the emissions from the project like the first one, the max CO2 emission from our project will be less than the emission created by an average car use 4 gallons of gasoline in a day. So the max CO emission from our project in a day will be equivalent to an average US vehicle drive about 2/10 of a mile. So the max NOx emission will be equivalent to an average US vehicle drive roughly 10 miles per day. And the max VOC emissions will be about the same as use 1/4 to 1/2 gallons of paint. And contrary to many reports, this project will not emit particular matter. I want to live in Columbia that not only safeguard to our own communities, but that truly cares and plays its part to solve the real problems like the plastic recycling. We have the opportunity to bring that here, and I urge you to do not support CB 11 2025. Thank you.
All right. Do you have any questions? Any? Thank you for your testimony. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah,
Paul
so
has a
I have
question.
a question. So I understand that WR Grace is a production facility in Curtis Bay in Baltimore, where there's a bigger production facility. Why what's the urgency to put it in Howard County instead of near like a bigger production facility if it's going to be scaled up?
Actually, it is a different function. Our Curtis Bay, it is, to my understanding, is mainly for the big scale productions, and the type of the production maybe is incompatible. But if you need more detailed situations like explanations, I can get from our corporate communication back to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, anything else? All right, thank you, sir. Michelle Payne, followed by Joel Hurwitz, and then Deb Young. Michelle? Hi, good evening.
Good evening, members of the Board of Columbia Association, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Michelle Payne. I am here to represent W.R. Grace. I am a resident of River Hill Village and a mother to one child. My family has called Columbia home since we moved to this neighborhood in 2010. I received my PhD degree from North Carolina State University. I am a senior business technology manager at W.R. Grace in Columbia, and I have been working here for almost 18 years. As you consider the matter of CB 11, I am here to share some facts with you. The bill is deeply concerning in its targeted attack on Grace and all of us who work there. For more than 60 years, Grace has called Howard County home, and I am proud to work for a company that is fully committed to remaining a responsible and engaged member of this community for many years to come. Grace employs 600 people at our global headquarters in Columbia. 400 of us reside in Howard County, where we raise our families and contribute meaningfully to the local economy and community. Our work includes investing in research aimed at discovering innovations that can address industrial challenges. Recently, we identified an innovative process that could represent cutting-edge method to recycle plastic and may help address one of the most pressing environmental issues of our time. We are excited about the science we develop in Columbia, including the potential of this innovation compared to the other solutions to reduce energy use, improve air emissions, and ultimately help keep plastic out of landfills and oceans. Sadly, the public response has been marred by misinformation. Since August 2023, Grace has worked collaboratively with the Maryland Department of the Environment on permitting to build a small-scale pilot plastic recycling lab within R&D building at our headquarters on Grace Drive. In a move that replaces science with politics, this zoning amendment, CB 11, was recently introduced, supposedly to protect residents and the environment from the project's air emissions. The reality is that a process already exists in Maryland through the MDE to evaluate the air quality impacts of projects like this. This process is specifically directed at safeguarding the environmental health of residents. To that end, MDE is conducting a thorough fact-based review of our project and has engaged the community throughout the process. CB 11 is unnecessary. We have followed every step of the MDE permit application process, ensuring that this project will have no impact on the health or well-being of Howard County, its residents, or our on-site employees. Unfortunately, that routine air permit application to study our solution safely and lawfully has been terribly misunderstood and led to this misdirected attempt to change zoning law to prevent a safe and properly regulated R&D initiative. Not only would this harm our business and employees, it would discourage other businesses from pursuing innovative scientific research in Howard County and set a bad precedent for future special laws that are expressly forbidden under Article 3, Section 33 of the Maryland Constitution. We regret that routine air permit application has caused so much concern from our neighbors. We respectfully urge you to not support CB11 and instead to continue fostering an environment in which our business and employee base can thrive and continue contributing meaningfully and safely to Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ashley?
Yeah, thank you for coming to speak. I'm curious, since this has become such a public disagreement or being discussed about, has WR Grace created an environment for the community to come and have some sort of town hall and address the concerns that they've had?
This is a very good question. So I think we will get back to, yes, we do. I think I will get back to you for more details. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, the email is community@grace.com. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you for your testimony tonight. Joel Hurwitz, followed by Deb Young, and then Rick McCray.
Good evening, Joel Hurwitz, and Harper's Choice, member of the board, speaking for myself. First in CB11, as Lisa Kraus said, and as Councilman Young apparently will say after me, their amendments were filed today. And if the general counsel, your staff hasn't provided them to you, somebody should be working on getting them to you before your discussion. So the community wasn't given enough information, and I have advocated for either the bill that was for the delegation or for the county to have a pre-submission meeting process next time as part of this. Grace ignores the fact that the suggestion was in the information from MDE to have community outreach to avoid these problems. They stated to the council that they did everything. They could have done more, as suggested by MDE, but not required. Regarding the amendments, the person who testified talked about the problem with some of the constitutional legal issues, which Councilmember Young's amendments addressed to fix, which I thought Eric's question went to, or applied to the applied physics lab. I wasn't sure if you meant companies or locations of other PEC districts. While I actually support the innovation of finding better uses of getting rid of plastic molecules, I believe that the former R&D use in the PEC never allowed what Grace is doing or what they have admitted they've been doing, because creating chemicals are only allowed in an M2 district if you read the zoning correctly. Regarding Long Reach, as Stu Cohn admitted the fact that you haven't dealt with Long Reach, and this is the first night you're actually going to talk about it. In fact, the developer is first time here and coming to you weeks after they went to the council backwards. Demonstrates, as I testified to the county council, it's only a concept plan and not a complete urban renewal plan. And I want to know, somebody ever asked the question, if they don't provide it, how does the developer intend to fully compensate C and the residents who pay the annual charge for the improvements made to Stonehouse and the Art Center? Because they weren't created for $0, as Kevin Bruning said. You put millions of dollars apparently into the renovations. Regarding the villages, I support what Amy Bennett said, except for her solution. I didn't fully understand her timeline. I support Kevin Bruning and Brigadier Warren. But as I said last time when I testified virtually, you have a policy that when you ask a question, residents speak, I get an answer. I have not. So I'll ask again. Like public to hear, as well as myself as a member of a village board, you now have about 2 months left in the fiscal year. What is your plan? You could ask for another 1-year extension. So let's talk about the timeline sometime, because apparently we're not going to come to an agreement before the end of the next month from now.
All right. Thanks for your comments tonight, Joel. Do we have any questions? Very good. Thank you very much. All right. Deb Young, followed by Rick McQuay, and then Brian Stupai.
Good evening. Trying to be very efficient here.
Thank you.
I know what it's like.
Yes.
We had 130 people who came to testify in WR Grace last week over the course of 2 nights. My name is Deb Young, and I am the one who sponsored CB11, actually at the request of the Planning Board. The Planning Board heard, again, probably about 100 people from Cedar Creek and other communities in the area, and decided that even though their original ZRA, zoning regulation amendment, was not sufficient, that they wanted to approve it because they saw that it was very much needed as a result of what was occurring. So they asked the county council to come up with another solution to ensure that the uses that WR Grace is pursuing on their property are compatible with what is surrounding them. Now, the PEC was intended to support specific commercial and employment uses, and those are already itemized in the Howard County zoning regulations. For some reason, which nobody really knows, WR Grace was taken out, R&D was taken out of the PEC, which made WR Grace a non-conforming use. That maybe is a little too much zoning, except for you, Mr. Santos, who knows what that all means. But it made it a very unique and difficult situation. And it meant that what Grace should have done, and they did, is anytime they make a change to what they're doing, they have to go seek permission when they are a non-conforming entity. As a non-conforming entity, they had to seek permission to get this air permit. They applied for the air permit 2 days after the last home was sold in Cedar Creek. 2 days. And for those of you who didn't know this, the land that all of Cedar Creek is built on was owned by WR Grace. WR Grace, PEC, at one point, turned that land into a community enhancement zone, community enhancement floating zone, and that means that the developer is supposed to provide an enhancement which has never been provided to this community. And now it's going on, I guess, 2 or 3 years. WR Grace they're not a bad actor, and what they want to do is not a bad thing. They should just be doing it in the manufacturing zone and not surrounded by residential neighborhoods, one of which they helped build by selling the land where it is now located. So it is my hope that you will support this resolution to say that the Columbia Association is behind this CB11. As you already have heard, it affects at least 2 of our Columbia neighborhoods, and I think it's something that's really important and that we need to be looking at for the future.
Thank you very much for coming out, and I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you all.
Mr. Greenberg has a question
Yeah,
for you.
Sorry. So I've heard for the first time there's amendments to this bill. Could you
Yes.
describe what the amendments are?
An amendment this afternoon, actually, to broaden the language a little bit so that the idea of it being a special bill would be that the attorney, really the lobbyist who is representing WR Grace, would not have a leg to stand on. I think that what really matters here is that this is an incompatible use. You don't put a plastics incinerator in the midst of 2 neighborhoods, one of which would not even be there had you not sold your land for $13 million, which was then resold for $17 million when it became a community enhancement floating zone. So a lot of money has been made over there, and yet here's an entity that would like to do something that is not compatible with these neighborhoods.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deb, I had a real quick question.
Okay.
I've been paying attention to this. I ride my bike up and down Grace Drive all the time.
I'm sure you have.
That hill is a pain. I gotta
That
tell you.
is a big, bad hill. I live at the bottom of that, actually.
To the question, in reviewing the bill, there is a setback of 1,800 feet.
Right.
And this is not the greatest forum to figure this out, but what is the background analysis for determining that setback?
Well, that was the original ZRA that was put before the planning board,
Yeah.
that the planning board found was not implementable.
Right.
I think I maybe said too many bulls there, but could not be put into place because a buffer, you can't move buildings. That's not how the bulk regulations work. You know that.
Right.
And that's why the planning board asked us to come up with something that we could implement. And that's what I have made sure is now will be in front of our county council on Monday night, March 3rd, wear red. And I will also tell you that this afternoon, I did obtain legal sufficiency from our law department, so we are good to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Rick McCray, then Brian Stupi, and then Chris Oliva.
Hello, everyone. I'm still going to lead down. I'm Rick McCray. I'm a resident of Long Reach. I'm here as a resident representing myself, but I am a member of the Long Reach Village Board. I just want to thank you all for being here. I empathize with you. I don't want to be here till 11 either, but it's democracy, so this is what we're doing. I want to thank also some of my board members who are here. Reg, obviously, who represents us on the CA board. Amy, who spoke already. Dr. Lil, who's here as well. Drew, who's right here with his wife. I'd be here with my wife, but she's with my kids and she doesn't want to be here and I don't want her to be there. And then Nina, our board chair, and then our village manager would be here, but there's a traffic meeting happening. So that's why they're not here. I'm going to speak about the management contract and the independence of the villages. And I thought, how do I do that? I don't know what to say. And the first thing that came to my mind was my kids. My wife and I have 3 children. We have a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And my sons, I think about my youngest. And when he was a baby, he was the type of baby where if you didn't give him what he wanted, he would lose his mind. He'd cry and he'd scream, and we'd have to plan when we take him to a restaurant because he's going to make a scene. I promise this is relevant some kind of way. And then we had our second son. And so we're all prepared, and something happens, and he starts getting upset, and he starts crying, and my wife goes to calm him down, and the strangest thing happens. He calms down. He just stops and moves on. And we thought, wait a minute. We thought babies were all like the first one, but he was completely different. And then years later, we had our third son, and he was exactly like our oldest, where he would lose his mind and go crazy and get upset. All of them are brilliant. All of them are great. All of them are unique. All of them are unique. Now, my analogy doesn't exactly work because the Columbia Association is not the parent of the villages, because I don't charge my kids an assessment to live in my house, right? But here's the but part. My children are very unique, but I'm biased. I think they're dashingly handsome and brilliant, but they're different, but they're all family. The villages are unique. There are very specific things, very local things that happen in Long Reach that are different than happen in other villages. We've had residents from River Hill talking about things that are happening in regards to a facility that's being built right beside them. Whereas I may be like, it can happen, it cannot happen. It's right beside their home. The villages need to remain independent in every way that they can while still contributing to Columbia as a whole. If things are working, we need a very specific reason for changing them. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Very good. Any questions for Rick? Thank you very much. Thanks for hanging in there. Okay. Brian, then Chris Oliva, and then Dr. Norris Holmes.
First, I'd like to say thank you for saying my last name correct. I did not expect that. Thank you.
It's been an interesting evening. I was happy that I was able to pronounce some names correctly, so I appreciate every single one of those.
Thank you. So my name is Brian Stupi. I'm speaking on my behalf. My family moved here to Columbia in 2013. We currently live in Kingston Trivens. I also work at Grace. I've worked there since 2013. That's what brought me here to Columbia. I'm here to speak, not to endorse CB 11. My family uses the bikes pass, the pools, the gyms, the miniature golf courses, baseball cages, and the parks. My children attend the Columbia Association's summer camps each and every year. My wife runs on the paths every morning. My daughter attends Appleton Elementary School. I cycle, apparently like you, up and down Grace Drive and Harriet Tubman because it really does work the legs. So I'm glad someone else suffers with me. I also am very, safety is very important to me, which you'll hear in a moment. My family and I have a vested interest in the health and safety in Columbia. Some question Grace's commitment to the health and safety of the community, and I pledge to all of you, Grace imposes high standards for safety at our facility. The employees of Grace hold ourselves to a very high standard when it comes to safety. We perform internal and external audits. Grace employees do monthly inspections of all our facilities to prevent spills, fires, and accidents. We have controls in place to prevent contamination of the ground, the water, and the air. Grace has an emergency response team made up of volunteers of the employees. I am one of the leaders of that team. The team drills for medical and chemical incidences. Grace and the response team work closely with the Howard County Fire Department to make them aware of what we work on site. We also bring on the fire department and give them a tour of our facilities. Grace has generated emergency response plans with the help of the Howard County Fire Department for the safety of our community and our employees. I, like Grace, have a vested interest in keeping Columbia and the community safe. My family lives here. Like Grace, I have a responsibility to keep our homes, residents, and community as safe as possible. I urge you not to support CB 11 as it will not make us safer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks so much for your testimony. Do we have any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chris Oliva and then Dr. Norris Holmes will be our last.
Good evening, board members. Haven't been here for quite some time. I see a lot of new faces, and it's very interesting you're taking this up. CB 11 and the other issues that are really in prime tonight really have a common thread, and there is a crisis in public confidence in the County Department of Planning and Zoning, in the Maryland Department of the Environment, and their review has, frankly speaking, been much less than we should expect from our government. And so the people here have very legitimate concerns. You wouldn't want to live next to this. The last speaker outlined the tremendous emergency procedures they have, and that's great, but that kind of is a self-defeating because he's acknowledging it's dangerous. I don't have an evacuation plan for my house. I'm not running a meth lab or doing chemical research over at my house. So you're not worried about that. And if I was doing that, I could be cited for that. And just to go on further here, this is not currently a permitted use here. And Grace should have applied under Section 129E for a new non-conforming use, which this is. And I know that because I had to apply for a permitted use confirmation at my house. And I had to show them 30 years of evidence to show that that non-conforming use was in place and uninterrupted. Over here, the Department of Planning and Zoning required a letter. Oh, we've been doing this. Well, okay, that's great, but, show us. And, I think we really have a problem here. It's been said, a cynic is a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. And when you talk about the villages, when this originally was set up, the CA board here and CA was merely a maintenance company. And the villages were the soul of the community. That is where we were supposed to, create a community amongst ourselves, not here at this board. And so accordingly, I appreciate that you're taking this up, but I just want you to consider these points, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions? Very good. All right. Dr. Norris Holmes, I want to thank you for coming tonight, and you are our last registered resident speak out person. So thank you for being so patient with us.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that it's going to be a yes vote for the villages, huh? Thank you. And good evening. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity, and village board members, CA board members, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am Dr. Lillian Norris Holmes. I'm vice chair of the Long Reach Village Board. And I'm here tonight with a statement from our village board, and whom Rick had the pleasure of introducing ahead of me. So for those of you that didn't recognize, would you all please raise your hand? So we have actually 4 of our 5 board members here tonight, and we also have our CA rep, Reginald Avery, whom we do love dearly. No, thank you. So I am here with a statement tonight from the village board that we agreed on last Tuesday during our village board meeting. The Long Reach Community Association, being LRCA, is happy to be here tonight to tell you about our village, as well as the facility that we manage on behalf of the community that both the Columbia Association and the Long Reach community serve as a team. Long Reach is a village of nearly 7,000 households, which is nearly 1/5 of Columbia. We work in conjunction with the CA to build, manage, and grow facilities, along with the creation of our village and our community. This partnership is really a partnership of the 2 organizations whose sole focus and mission is to serve the residents. Specifically in Long Reach, we manage the Stone House, which is next door to the Columbia Arts Center, and we also have 3 other centers. They are Jeffers Hill, Phelps Luck, and Locust Park. I live in Kendall Ridge. We do not have a center, but we do have a pool. So we're happy with that. And the village board sponsors a pool party for the residents of Kendall Ridge every year. And I'll be brief. The future management of these facilities is part of the discussion for tonight, and the village board welcomes ongoing dialogue in partnership with the CA in serving the residents. However, before I get to the importance of the facilities, I want to tell you more about our amazing, valuable community, the largest village of all. Long Reach is an exceptionally diverse community in all ways, and our housing stock ranges from rentals to homeowners, very affordable condos to houses in the 7 figures. However, because of an in celebration of our diversity, our residents are a community with a unique bond. The village concept gives a small town feel. Saying you live in Long Reach lets people know your geographic area within Columbia. It provides a sense of community pride when discussing the schools, the amenities, and community and neighborhood centers within the village. Long Reach is a community of inclusion. It is a community of welcome. It is a community of possibilities. It is a community that celebrates the young, first-time homeowners trying to get a foothold in Howard County and retire with a means living in age-restricted luxury housing. We are a community of families of all kinds. We are a community that gathers at Jackson Pond, in our open space, at our pools, in our schools, and a community that supports each other. We are a community that has been challenged by changes of economics and fair use of investments in some areas. We are a community that thrives with creative solutions and a willingness to take chances with growth and determination. We are a community that is true to the vision of Columbia.
Dr. Norris.
Yes, thank you very much.
One last thought, please. I appreciate everything you said so far. Just please wrap it up, okay?
Oh, no. Well, that's fine. I appreciate your time. Gee, time does go fast. Okay, in conclusion, the mission of the Long Reach is to promote the health, safety, common good, and social welfare of the owners and property in the residents of that area. So the mission of the Columbia Association is to engage our diverse community, cultivate a unique sense of place, and enhance the quality of life. We are here to serve the community, and we look forward to working with you as we have for over the 50 years to serve our residents. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you and to you tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comments tonight. If you can just hold, does anyone have a question? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That will conclude our resident speak out tonight. Thank you for everybody who participated tonight, and thank everybody for sitting in your seats. You did a great job. We're going to take yeah, very good point. Mike has made a good point. As I said at the top, please send an email with your testimony that you provided tonight, so we have that and we'll be able to look at that over the next few days. I would really appreciate it, as would the rest of the board. We're going to take about a 10-minute recess so we can reset the meeting here, so we can have a presentation on the proposed Long Reach Village Center. Thanks again, everybody. We'll be recessed until 8:45. All right, are we ready? Are our friends, our guests ready? Okay, it is 8:45. Recess has been complete. We are back. Next on our agenda, let me please read this correctly here. Long Reach Village Center redevelopment presentation by Columbia Concepts. Welcome and thank you for coming and providing us with some information tonight.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us to present our concept plan of Long Reach Village Center redevelopment. And I also want to thank the board for an hour and a half of lively yet very informative discussions. It was very interesting. My name is Brian Kim. I am the managing director of Columbia Concepts. And before I get into the details of our presentation, just want to give the board members sort of a background on why we're here this evening to speak with you. Initially, the Long Reach Village Center, the RFP to redevelop the Village Center was issued by the county probably about a year ago. We were one of the groups that responded to the RFP to come up with a concept plan on redeveloping the Village Center. But as part of our concept plan, our proposal, we recognized that there were other parcels of land that were owned by non-county entities. And in our process of submitting our proposal, rather than thinking about or limiting ourselves to redeveloping just the 7 acres of land that the county owned, we decided that if we're able to partner with the adjacent landowners and be able to incorporate their parcel into the overall redevelopment, we just thought that it made better sense. It created a tremendous amount of synergy for that particular area, and that we can expand the amount of services that we can provide to the county, the Howard County residents, as well as the residents of Long Reach Village Center. So I think we did go to the county council and had the urban renewal plan approved, which sort of designated some geographic area in Long Reach Village Center, as well as certain types of uses that we are proposing to redevelop. But obviously, that's just a very small step in a long, many steps in order for this development to be realized. And so we're here with a proposal to the board about our concept and how Columbia Concepts and Columbia Associations could potentially be in a partnership for the redevelopment of Long Reach Village Center. Should I point this, or am I? So for tonight's agenda, we just want to just go up the agenda. Yeah, back.
We go the other way. Sorry.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Almost there.
Yep.
There we go.
There you go. Thank you. So for tonight, very briefly, we want to do a team introduction. We want to go through our redevelopment program that was submitted in our proposal to the county, as well as part of the urban renewal approval. We want to talk about an alternative development program in the event that the partnership does not materialize between Columbia Concepts and the adjacent landowners. We want to sort of highlight some of the benefits we think we can provide to Columbia Association via the redevelopment, and we're very open for any questions and answers. So Columbia Concepts, as I stated, my name is Brian Kim. I'm the managing member of Columbia Concepts, but really the Columbia Concept is made up of local businesses, residents of Howard County. These individuals are very committed to where they live. This was an opportunity to collaborate among Howard County residents to make an impact in the community. But not only are they vested in Howard County and in Columbia, but as you can tell, they're one of the renowned leaders of their respective industry. And so we're very proud of the assemblage of the various team members that we put together. And we feel like with all of the brain powers that are sort of on that particular page, we have the bandwidth to deliver a very wonderful redevelopment of Long Reach Village. So here, this is a snapshot of Long Reach Village Center today. As you can tell, the largest landowner of Long Reach is Howard County, but then again, there are subsequent various other adjacent landowners that's not owned by Howard County. And it's critical that we show that because as we overlay our redevelopment program, you can sort of see which part of or which adjacent landowners sort of have to cooperate with our redevelopment program. Here's just a snapshot of everything that's in the purple and red is what we're proposing to use for our redevelopment. And out of that, you can tell there are potentially 5 adjacent landowners that has not, at this particular point in time, committed to the redevelopment. So as we submitted our proposal, one of the key factors for our redevelopment program was, our principal goal was to create a new hub of commercial and residential activity that would serve as a catalyst for transforming the village center and its surrounding neighborhoods into a vibrant, sustainable ecosystem. We really wanted to create a place where it was going to be a destination for the local community as well as residents of Howard County to sort of gather into a destination, be able to meet all of their needs from a family perspective. And from that principal goal, we came up with 5 key development opportunities. Okay. So the first development idea was to create a building called Community Destination. And this building in particular should be the greatest concern for Columbia Association because it actually sits right on top of the Stonehouse and Columbia Arts Center. We felt that one of the most underserved uses in Howard County is affordable living space for the senior residents. So our thought was to create a rental senior apartment building. And below the apartment building, we proposed to recreate the Stonehouse as well as the Art Center. We wanted to include other nonprofits that are currently existing in Long Reach, such as Columbia Community Cares, Columbia Arts Center, as well as other small nonprofits that are already there. And on top of that, we also wanted to create a senior service center that can not only serve the residents of this particular building, but senior residents throughout Howard County. And second aspect of our redevelopment is to create inclusive housing destination, which will be for sale as well as rental. Our goal is to serve all income ranges for both for sale and for rental. It includes, from 1 bedroom all the way up to potentially 3 bedrooms for those families that want to rent. But if families decide that they want to be part of home ownership in Howard County, we want to create some opportunity. And even those home ownership, we're going to try to target that individuals or households that are in the various income ranges may be able to afford these homes. The third aspect and the anchor to our entire redevelopment is to create a multi-sports complex with high demand food destination along the base of the building. We realize one of the greatest needs of our county when it comes to sporting events for our children is there's not enough facility that can accommodate the various travel sports that is going on in Howard County. And as a parent, and Heather, as a parent of children who play travel sports, 99% of the times we had to go out of Howard County to practice, out of Howard County to compete in these various sporting events. And because of those need, we thought by creating a multi-sports complex that can accommodate and function for all different types of sporting events would be a popular draw, would allow households not have to travel, 20, 30 miles to take their children after work to practice facilities. This would sort of act as an anchor that's going to create a destination where, a local as well as, potentially other county households can come in and be sort of a destination for them.
And Brian, I think it's important to point out that this is another opportunity for partnership with CA, the multi-sports complex.
The other aspect that we really wanted to create was sort of an open space, green space area where it can function as a gathering place for the local community. It would be an opportunity for various local businesses to sort of do a pop-up type of events here. And again, this would be another area where we can collaborate with CA to create other opportunities. And finally, our fifth concept is trying to create a next-gen retail destination. Virtual reality entertainment has really taken off over the last 5 years. These types of use and functions are very popular in large cities like Atlanta, Las Vegas, New York. And given Columbia's geographic location between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, we thought having a next-gen retail virtual reality type of function would also create an opportunity for people to gather in Long Reach. Another key aspect of our redevelopment concept is to create a private pedestrian alley, also to create some sort of micro-mobility zone where there's connectivity between Long Reach and other village centers throughout Howard County. Our goal is to try to create more local stores and shops to be part of the redevelopment versus looking at national chains. This is just a street view of the development. And this is just a quick flyby video of the overall development. So most of the parkings will be underground below the buildings. There will be some street level parking as well. And the key factor in all of this is our commitment to arts and culture. We realize Long Reach has a history of promoting arts and culture in Howard County, and our intent is to grow that, not to eliminate it.
I don't know if you want to finish your presentation before you answer questions.
I can do whatever you guys prefer. I'm open to both.
How many slides do you have left?
I have maybe 4, and I can go through them very quickly.
Well, maybe we just finish up the 4 and.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is just a traffic pattern and traffic flow and where the access to parking would be. And this is interesting. This was as a suggestion from the CA staff that we potentially think about an alternative redevelopment program if the adjacent landowners were not part of the redevelopment. So as you can see, there's about 7 acres of land that the county owns. And in the event, we have to limit our redevelopment program to just those 7 acres. We propose to continue to do the two rental buildings, one for seniors, one for families. We want to combine the sports complex and the virtual reality entertainment under one building. We're going to have to scale back on our opportunity on the virtual reality, probably scale back on some, local store retail center. But again, to try to continue to maintain that open space opportunity. The one development program that will probably suffer the most in this redevelopment, alternative redevelopment, is the for sale housing. But outside of the for sale housing, even if our redevelopment footprint is limited to the 7 acres, our intent is to continue to provide all of those 5 key components minus the for sale housing. The potential benefits to CA arising from Long Reach Village Center redevelopment program. I think Heather found this on your website. It's sort of trying to create collaboration. We agree. I think there can be tremendous amount of collaboration between CA and Columbia Concept via the redevelopment. You go. And some of the things that, we just want to expand on is, we can continue to, in cooperation, foster the arts and culture, reputation and legacy. We would definitely modernize and redevelop the Stonehouse and Columbia Art Center. CA would not lose those 2 buildings. You would maintain those buildings. It would be new. It would be still able to hold all of the existing functions that you have today. Potentially in collaboration, maybe be able to create other potential functions that you might not have an opportunity to do because of the limitation of space. There'll be access to open space, as we mentioned earlier, where there could be tons of ideas for collaboration. The opportunity to create the virtual reality retail building is another way of trying to create the next gen art type of functions as well. Enhanced partnership with community stakeholders. We'll be able to provide a better facility for all of our nonprofits that are currently in Long Reach Village so that they too themselves can expand their services to the residents. Again, as Heather mentioned, the sports complex is going to give great opportunity for CA and Columbia Concepts to expand that building to create more opportunities and services. And also the senior center will be another function that we would have that CA and Columbia Concepts can sort of collaborate. The final slide, the partnership opportunities. We fully intend to ensure that the existing building gets recreated. The only thing, the major change will be, it would not be a standalone building anymore. There's going to be something on top of it, and there's going to be something to the left of it. But we fully intend to duplicate every function that you currently have today in the new building. I think because we're able to create a new building, we have opportunity to design something that is going to allow you to expand your services in the existing facility rather than be limited in what you can provide given the logistics of where the building is currently constructed. I know recently there's been some capital investment to the building, and I'm sure this is a 10-year development process. It's going to take us a long time before we can realize the new building, the Art Center and the Stonehouse. And so, one of the things that we would definitely propose is, if there's any capital improvements that you've made, the dollars that you've invested in the building at the time of demolition, and we know, you want to be very fiscally responsible with the money that you have. We don't have any problem coming up with some mechanisms to ensure that any capital improvements that you've made to the building gets returned to you with some sort of a methodology. I think I put in there some as is present value, but that's open for discussion. I think the key factor is, we want to make sure that CA owns and be able to operate their services in the new building as you are in the old building. We want to make sure that we create opportunities between the two groups to expand services to the community. And that at no point in time will there be any financial loss due to any capital improvements that you might make between now and, when the building gets redeveloped. So that's my presentation. Now I'll let you.
Yeah, okay. Just to be cognizant of time, we have 9 minutes and I think I have 9 hands up. So let's just be cognizant of each other's time and we'll see if we need to vote on this. I think we're just going to go around the horn. We'll start with Karen.
I'll try to be quick.
Thank you.
Hopefully you can hear me okay. Yeah, I'm gonna I'll just make my comments and then you can respond. So number one is, I'm really excited that the Long Reach Village Center is gonna be redeveloped. I lived in that village for 23 years. And I think, it's more than time for that to be worked on. My one concern is, when I'm looking at your concept, is while very beautiful, how will it fit into the overall look and feel of the neighborhood? Because I feel like what you're creating there is almost like a mini DC, and while I find Long Reach delightful and love everything about it, I think of Long Reach as an outdoorsy area, I can't remember who was talked about, I think it was Dr. Norseman's talking about walking around Jackson Pond and all that kind of stuff, and all the things that are there, and making it look spectacular, but also kind of embracing the look and feel of that neighborhood. So that's one comment. My other comment was the multi-sports complex. What types of sports would be in there? And then the last thing is, how many residential units are you thinking that will, if for the first plan and the alternate plan, how many residential units would be on? Thank you.
Yep. So the redevelopment as it relates to the existing community, I think the benefit of Long Reach is sort of at the tail end of the local residential components of the Long Reach Village Center. Obviously, our goal is to create a place where it would be easily accessible by foot, as well as vehicles, as well as other type of micromobility type of transportation. We're going to be very strategic about how people ingress and egress out of the shopping center to limit the amount of disturbance that we have in the existing community. And generally along Tamar Drive, there are a lot of older for rental homes, apartment buildings that's sort of commingled into a sort of more of a single family residential community. I think this is going to highlight that same sort of collaboration between rental and for sale that's currently existing in that quarter of Long Reach. As far as the type of sports, we're thinking about pickleball, volleyball, basketball, any types of indoor sporting activities. We're going to make sure that we have a very multifunctional building to sort of be able to accommodate all of that. And the third question, I'm sorry, I forgot. Oh, the
Housing
residential units. So there's 330 rental and approximately about 68 for sale townhomes. And these are all conceptual numbers.
All right, thanks. Sky, did you have a quick comment or question?
Sure. I noticed that you don't have a grocery store anywhere in the village center. Is that because there are nearby grocery stores, and do you know how far away they are?
So again, this is a concept plan, but we are focused on bringing in a more boutique grocer. A grocer that can sort of operate within a square footage of approximately, 4,000 to 6,000 square feet. A similar size store will be the Trader Joe's in Elk Ridge next to Costco. That's approximately about a 4,500 square foot shopping center. So we are thinking about, and it would be very community focused grocery store rather than a national chain.
Thanks, Reg.
Okay, so it's funny, Aaron, you lived in Long Reach and moved to Oakland Mills. I lived in Oakland Mills and then moved to Long Reach. But I know we both love our villages. You got it. So anyway, just one of the concerns I had, and we talked about this when we had our village meeting, is that underground parking. It just really disturbs me because it becomes a security issue. And we talked about that and how, things that we can do to get around that. I want you all to know that my village, it's a great village, but our center is really just, it's been gutted out. I'm trying to find a good word for it, but we really need renovation. So when I told to our group of friends here that if you're going to come in and just play this game and then walk away, we don't want you at all. Because we've been through this for 25 years now, having different people come in and trying to put a center in for us, renovate it, and it hasn't worked out. So we're kind of excited that they are coming in, Columbia is coming in, and that you're going to take a look and try to renovate, and you have a plan, you have a time sheet. The only thing I really have concerns with is, in all honesty, by the time you guys, finish everything in the village, open up the keys to the doors and everything, I'll probably be in my 90s. So I'm hoping to see it a lot sooner than that. That's my only concern.
All right, thanks, Reg. Quick comment from my seat here. I'm the DPZ guy, and I'm just hoping that you guys are well versed in Newtown zoning. There is a floor on open space of 33%, and we were like fractional acres above that. Our land is all open space. If you're taking over 5 acres, that has to be made up, and we've got to find a balance there. And related to that, many of your slides included the BGE right-of-way for the high tension wires, a little bit more extra, but it looks like no development occurs in your plan in that parcel. And I was wondering why you have that included in your boundary, but yet there is nothing really activated in your initial plan.
Are you talking about the Howard Hughes land?
Well, I guess it's Howard Hughes land, and it's also the land under the power lines there.
Yeah, so obviously there's a BGE right away, which most likely it would be too costly to even consider trying to redevelop that area. The 8-acre parcel that's owned by Howard Hughes adjacent to the BGE right away, it's not included because one, I think there's an opportunity to include that at a later time, and that would take collaboration with Howard Hughes to do so. But for this particular exercise, it was an RFP in regards to the Village Center as it relates to the Village Center.
All right, thank you. Colin?
Just a time check. We have about 2 minutes, but a couple of questions. I have 2 for you. One, the multi-sports complex, who is operating that? What are the costs and who's paying for that? Are you looking at the residents adjacent to paying for that facility? That's my first question. And then my second question is, you mentioned affordable housing. I'd be interested to hear what y'all's definition of affordable housing is.
So the sports complex would potentially be managed by a third-party management company. However, if there's a way to include, CA and potentially, Howard County Rec and Parks, that's something that we will be open to.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Oh, and affordable housing, I'm sorry. So our view, given where we are is, we say affordable housing, but because we live in a very high income area, we're targeting households that make about 60% of the area median income. So somewhere between $55,000 to $80,000 a year, we would consider affordable.
I'm glad to hear that you're open to some sort of compensation for the capital improvements that we've put in. Joel can spend more time yelling at us for other stuff now. Minor thing, it would be great if there's a bike path that goes near there. For years, it's been a frustration of mine that it doesn't really connect into the village center. And if that's something that could be incorporated in, maybe it already is, that'd be great. But my main questions are just, can you talk about financing and phasing and timelines, where you are with like kind of the nuts and bolts of how you're actually going to implement this?
Yeah, so we're at a very early stage of our entitlement. So we're at a process of now going through the Village Center redevelopment process, which is very detailed. The first phase of it is we have to meet with the Long Reach Village Board as well as the community, have an open workshop, be able to address comments from there. And upon the completion of the public meeting, then we have to go through the preliminary plan changes. And once that's approved, then we have to go to the SDP plan. So the entitlement phase, based on the way the Village Center redevelopment is sort of laid out, the way Howard County sort of structured it, I mean, potentially it can take, up to 2 years to get this done. So within that 2 years, we're not going to make a lot of capital investment, physical investment. It'll be a lot of consultants, engineers, and architects. Ideally, once we go through the SDP process, we're going to strategically be able to try to phase each of those buildings. There's going to be some level of infrastructure work that we're going to have to do for the entire site. That's going to be capital that we would have to invest before we see any return until each of those different buildings are constructed. So ideally, if things go according to plan, we're hoping within 2 years that we'll start moving some dirt in that particular area.
All right.
Point of order, we are out of time.
Okay, I'm hoping we could just have a friendly amendment to allow our last couple of members to ask their questions. All right, Eric?
Yeah, so a couple of questions on the new stone house. So it looks like it's part of a much larger building. So would CA own the whole building, part of the building, none of the building? How the ownership and control of Stonehouse work with respect to the rest of this fairly large building?
Right, so the building will have various functions. Each function will be condominiumized to have its own ownership structure. The Stonehouse and the Art Center would be owned by CA. The other components within that building will be owned by other owners.
Would this sort of be like a condo type of?
Correct. It'll be a condo regime.
And how would that work? Would there be like a condo association, which all the owners would have to sort of work together to do things like capital improvements for the entire
That's
building
correct.
itself?
Correct. Yep.
How would that work?
So typically, we'll draft a condo document that specifically outlines, who's going to be responsible, what types of capital improvements in the new building, and how those costs are distributed amongst all of the owners.
Okay. All right. Very good. Paul? All right. Thank you, Paul. Ashley?
Yes, I was curious how much of this is considered infill versus like new construction, removing trees, things like that.
Yeah, it would be a predominantly new construction. It wouldn't be, there isn't much opportunity for infill at the Village Center.
Okay, how tall are these facilities? I know in Columbia, we don't usually go too high.
It roughly, 4 stories, each being 927, probably somewhere between 55, 65 feet.
Okay, and then my last question.
These are all concepts, so yeah.
Got it. I love the illustration with the rooftop gardens. Are these things that the residents in those buildings would be required to maintain? Or
The building owner will be maintained. There will be an
Great,
HOA
okay.
that would outline that.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys for a great presentation. We appreciate your input, and I guess we'll be in communication in the future, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. You all have a great evening. All right. Go a minute here, okay. Next up, we're going to take our item that was moved off the consent agenda, appointment of Treasurer of Columbia Association. Stephanie's done a great job of being patient with us here tonight, so we'll get this out of the way. I'll start with the resolution out loud, and then if we can have a motion, and then we can discuss, if
Well,
that's
can
okay.
Stephanie introduce herself? Could she just come up here and introduce? That's why I was made a big deal about this, is because I really wanted us to be able to meet her and know who she is.
Okay, Stephanie, would you like to come sit down and,
I'll move the resolution.
excuse me,
I'll move the resolution to,
would you like me to read it?
no, it says I'll move it.
Oh, you'll move it?
Yeah,
Okay,
move it.
thank you. That's by Eric. Anybody got a second there? That's by Mike. Stephanie,
Didn't we do this already? We
Okay.
we did this exact thing already, Karen.
I don't recall that. I'm sorry.
I guess that explains a lot.
Yeah, we met her
Did you-
a week or two ago.
I apologize. I forgot. Chris didn't know you were here.
I am a CPA. I'm a Virginia Tech graduate. And I've been, a CFO for another company. And have been in the industry or the accounting industry for about 28 years.
Well, Stephanie, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for doing this tonight.
No problem.
all right. So, just to get this on record, be resolved that Columbia Association of Incorporated, the corporation Board of Directors hereby removes Mary Lynn Schwartz as treasurer of the corporation effective February 27th, 2025. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors hereby appoints Stephanie Nestor as treasurer of the corporation effective February 27th, 2025.
I know you have to do that, but just the beginning part just sounds so impersonal. I
okay.
know you have to do it, but it's just,
I've asked Lynn in 2 consecutive meetings if I could say some kind words for all her service to the community, and she's politely refused and did not want me to say anything.
Thank you,
God's
Lynn.
truth. And I just, Lynn, thank you for all you have done for us and sitting through all these meetings. So, sadness within the resolution aside, we appreciate all of the work you've done, and we look forward to working with Stephanie, okay? All right, any other discussion on this motion? All right, Ashley,
Yes.
Sky, Paul,
Yes.
Reg,
yes.
Karen,
Yes,
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Colin.
Yes.
I am a yes, that's an 800.
I think Chris is online.
I'm
Oh,
also
Chris
yes.
has made it. Chris,
I
thank
don't know
you.
what time he joined us.
Chris comes in with the
Yep,
making it. All
I
right.
put a chat. I joined at 7:55.
Good year. Thank you, Chris. My apologies. All
No,
right,
no worries.
welcome. Okay. All right, so we got that. Stephanie, thank you. Welcome to the team. All right. So, moving on, old business, we have a series of votes to go through. First up is the capital budget. Do we have a motion for the capital budget?
So moved.
Mike moves. Second?
You have a,
In the interest of time, could we combine A, B, and C into a single vote?
I'm all for that. Do we have a motion to approve the capital budget, the operating budget, and the annual charge rate and cap?
So moved.
Mike has moved that.
I'll second it.
Reg has seconded. Any discussion? Okay. Chris, how do you vote?
The discussion.
Oh,
Yes.
Eric, I went around, I didn't see, I apologize. We're into the 9 o'clock hour, so my
Yes,
apologies.
so I am, first, I'd like to move to allocate, $125,000 from, the grants to IAT. Or, do you want to make the motion?
Yeah. I can make the motion.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
well, I'd like to make a motion to, first of all, to increase the president's his funding from $125 to $250, $250,000, excuse me, for all to be allocated to the IAT. And so somebody's gonna ask, well, I want to make that motion.
Okay, I'll cede the motion to Raj.
Are you gonna second for me?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Second that, I'll move. Never mind.
Okay, increase grants budget to $250,000
Mm-hmm.
and allocate to IAT.
Yes.
Where's, I think the next question is where's that money coming from?
I'm glad you asked. All right, so if I can,
What was the question?
to make, to move, to increase the president's,
Right, that was the motion, but what was the
well,
question?
his question was, where's the money coming?
That was my question.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
Paul asked, so I'm gonna tell you.
Let's keep it together. Reg,
Yeah.
please take the floor, explain where you want to take $125,000 from.
So I'd like to go ahead and take it from the president's funding of 125,000. And then I'd like to go into Cat 3 expenses under the capital budget for the other remaining 100,000. So that's 225,000. That's what I suggest.
I just want to be clear, when you initially made the motion, you asked for 250,000.
Right.
You're
I'm
now
sorry,
at
225,000. That's what I.
225,000.
I apologize. I can't read my own writing here.
Okay. Just want to make it straight, make sure we're all voting on the same thing.
Aye.
Okay, Susan,
Yeah, you can't move money from the capital budget to the operating budget, so you would need to find another source for that $100,000.
Okay.
while you're contemplating that, Susan, I just wanted to clarify, is that a general accounting principle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if I can't get it from from that particular pot of money, then let me just ask for the $125,000. All of that to go to IAT for the presidents.
Okay. So I just have this straight. $125,000 to IAT.
Yes.
And that would come from the money allocated in the president's grant fund.
Yes.
125. Eric.
So just to be clear, this will not actually change any of the numbers in the budget. It just allocates the 125,000 in the president's grants that's already in the budget,
Yeah.
specifically designating that pot of money to IAT.
Right?
Yes.
Sky.
In 2018, there was a total of $630, $630,000 available and given in the form of grants. And since then, it has increased a little bit, and now we're down to 125. I think it's really important for CA to be a good neighbor and to donate money to various social services. I think the Community Foundation of Howard County is an excellent venue to make those decisions for us. And I would be against this, and I
wholeheartedly disagree with you, because I think that anytime that when you give someone, I understand we've had this discussion over and over again. But if we're gonna give another party money, say, here, do this, give money out for us, we're neglecting our own responsibility. You know, I'm asking for money for a entity which we help build, we help support, we are with, been supporting constantly. You know, I think it's the right thing for us to do to continue to support this. You're gonna ask me where we get the money. I told you where we could get the money. So I understand and I appreciate what you're saying. I disagree with you. I think we should continue to support IAT.
Okay. All right. And is that all the discussion? Paul?
Yes, can you
Speaking to
just
the mic.
explain what does IAT need the under 25,000 for exactly?
Let me see here. You know, we, really for our maintenance and some of the, which is getting higher and higher each year. You know, we're not getting, CA does make money from the Symphony on Lights and keeps, and it doesn't, we don't get any of that money. So we're looking for money so that we can, you know, take care of the needs around the IAT, keep it going, keep it, you know, functional. And it's, you know, it's not like we're gonna use it to go out and, you know, have parties or have dinners, you know, bring people in for marketing. We're actually using it for a purpose of intending to operate, and it's something that, you know, we can come to you and say, hey, we're asking for this if we didn't really need it.
All right. Anything else? Sky?
I think it's, oh. I've already spoken,
Oh.
so.
Susan had her hand up also, so.
So I would just, because we're in a similar situation this year, if the board chooses to move forward with this, I would strongly recommend for your sort of protection of your fiduciary duty that you make it contingent upon getting an audit completed for FY 24. And which is, you know, FY 25 is almost over. So I would say both of those would need to be completed, would be my recommendation to you as fiduciaries.
All right. Eric, I see you, but Sky had her hand up. I want to get to Sky then.
Can I
Eric,
answer about the audit?
I want to hear from Sky first because her hand was up.
It's my understanding, and I could be wrong by a couple of years, but I thought at this point, the IAT should have been self-sufficient. They asked for donations the last 2 years, and we gave them a sizable donation one of those 2 years. The reason I'm in favor of the Community Foundation of Howard County is people apply, or organizations apply to this organization for grants, and the committee that distributes those grants, they are professionals. They know about the financial background of the organizations. And one of the requirements is that the receiving organizations then make a report, and the report is given to the CA. So we would know exactly what our money went to.
Reg,
So-
and then I'll go to you, Eric.
All right, so I just want to answer about the audit. So they are in the middle of the audit. The audit should be done in April. This comes from Nina, so she says she's aware of it. And she's not texting me right in the middle of my conversation. She sent this to me earlier. And she's hopefully by the end of March. By the end of March, she should have something for us to look at, but the actual audit should be done in April. The 990 will go to the board probably, you know, she said the 990 will probably go to the board by Monday. And so there's a, you know, she's making the effort. She hasn't taken a paycheck forever. All right, so she's taking the money that every dime that they have. And I agree with you that, you know, there was a point where they were supposed to be self-sufficient. They're not yet. Now, let's be truthful, they're not yet. But it's something that we have invested in as an organization. To walk away from it would not be something I would want to see us do.
All right.
So I understand what you're asking for. I understand what you're asking for, Sky, and I do appreciate it. But this is something I think, you know, we've been involved in. We need to see it through.
Thank you, Eric.
So the question I have is, if this money went to a different organization, would we get a financial audit from that other organization?
This is required under the easement.
So my point is that CA created IAT, CA created the villages as part of the easement, and as part of our agreement with the villages that we do get financial audits from these organizations. And the villages and IAT provide a service for Columbia and Columbia residents. The villages certainly help reach out to the community, and IAT is basically programming Symphony Woods, which is CA land. So I think there's I think it's hugely important that when we're giving out grants, that the grants have a CA focus.
Okay. Mike,
Call the question.
call the question. All right. Here we go. Colin.
Can you read?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The motion is to amend the FY 26 capital budget, operating budget, and rate and cap approval to increase, or I'm sorry, to transfer the grant budget from the president's budget to the Inner Arbor Trust. Colin,
No.
Eric,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
Karen,
Yes.
Reg,
Yes.
Paul,
No.
Sky,
No.
Ashley.
Conflict of interest, abstaining.
Okay. Chris.
No.
And I vote no. So that is 3 in favor, 6 opposed, 1 abstention. Motion does not pass 3-6-1. All right, back to the main motion. Capital budget, operating budget, rate and cap. Everybody understand what I'm saying? Eric,
I'd like to offer an amendment to transfer 125,000 from the president's grant budget to the village annual charge shares.
okay. Oh,
I'll second.
$125K from grants to village allocation,
The village annual charge share.
annual charge.
It's under
share.
under villages, village community associations.
Okay, and that's Eric and Karen. Mike? Did you have something? I'm sorry. Anybody else? Okay, Eric.
I'll speak in favor of the amendment. As we've heard today, a lot of villages came out. A lot of villages have concern about their funding. They do a lot of great work for the residents. They provide a lot of events. I know our village is very, very engaged. We do things like the 4th of July event. We have other great events for the community. And I think it would be just helpful if we can just give our villages just a little bit extra so they can continue doing their critical mission for the residents and the community.
Thanks, Eric. Anybody else? All right. Then we'll start with Reg.
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
Eric,
Yes.
Colin,
No.
Chris,
No.
Ashley,
No.
Sky,
No.
Paul.
No.
I vote no. That is 3-7-0. Amendment does not pass.
I would like to call the question.
Call the question on the main.
I've got additional amendments.
I'm calling the question.
All right.
Objection, you'd need at least 2/3 vote to call the question.
All right. So we need to vote to call the question. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
All right. Call the question.
This requires a 2/3 vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. All right, call the question. Reg,
What are we voting on now?
we're voting on whether or not we should call the question on the main budget. Eric has
Come back.
several, okay, all right, Sky,
No. No, I'm sorry.
The-
Repeat that?
Are we going to end debate and vote on the budget?
The motion is to end debate.
Yes.
okay. Ashley,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
Eric,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
Karen,
No.
Reg,
No.
Paul.
Yes.
Okay, so 6-3-0. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
And I
Seven.
vote 7-3-0. That's 2/3, right? Okay. All right, we call the question. This is to, the motion is to approve the capital budget, the operating budget, and the rate and cap. Any other, we're calling the question. Okay. Ashley,
Yes.
Sky,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Karen,
No.
Reg,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric.
So I just want to say, because we in the debate early, that a motion for supporting this is a motion to raise our fees to use the gyms again, raise the fees to use the pools. It'll continue to result in higher annual charge bills because, again, even though the rate is staying the same, property values have gone up. So the annual charge bills are going up.
Your
So
vote, sir?
I'm explaining my vote. So I'm voting against the budget.
Thank you, sir. Colin,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Once again, that's. And Chris,
Yes.
okay, 7-3-0. All right. The budget has been passed. Thanks to all the staff and all the hard work in the last 6 months. Thank you all for the debates over the last couple of months too. All right. Moving on, vote on the proposed revisions to the. Oh, no, we got to get through D first.
Good call.
That's okay. Vote on the proposed revisions to the purchasing policy.
Move that we approve it.
Okay, thank you. Mike, and Sky. Do we need any input from staff on this at all? I think we've seen it twice now, right? Okay, twice this is. Okay. Anything from the board? Any comments, questions? Eric?
Yes, on page 4, I moved to strike the words legal and lobbying services.
I second that.
Amendment. Citizens. Page 4.
Page 4.
Is that the only mention of legal and lobbying services on the page?
Bullet 3.
Bullet 3.
So
Thank
they added, so legal and lobbying services added in red on page 4. I moved to strike it.
That's Eric, and then Karen seconded. Thank you, Karen. Anything further on this amendment? Mike?
Just a reminder for those of us who may have forgotten that it's being added because there's time sensitive issues that we're not able to address fast enough. And sounds like a good idea to be able to address those things in a timely manner.
Thank you. Eric?
So the reason why I think we need to strike it is because there is some, I think, problematic interactions between this and our ethics policy. So right now, our ethics policy, basically, we hire three law firms, which basically appoint attorneys to the ethics panel. If we make an exemption for legal and lobbying services, then you basically create an exemption for establishing an membership on the ethics panel, and I think that is very, very concerning. So I think we should strike this. The exemption list is not really meant to make things faster. It's just meant for things that generally you can't really do a comparison shop anyway. If you're basically looking for a membership in an organization or attending a particular conference, you can't really comparison shop that, but you can certainly comparison shop and interview different law firms. So I think having this in there is problematic, and I think we should strike legal and lobbying services from this change.
Thank you for that, Eric. I believe General Counsel has a comment.
I think that the comments made regarding the composition and selection of the ethics panel are incorrect. The board is not involved in that at all. That's chosen by principal ethics officer. So it really would not affect that at all in terms of bidding it out. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. In terms of the, I think I went through it in detail last time about the time sensitive nature of this and why we do it. So I really can't expand beyond what I said last time.
Okay, Eric, I see your hand. I just want to make sure there weren't anybody else to put in here.
I'm just gonna.
Okay, so I actually, then I'll get to you. Okay. Ashley?
Yeah, just a reminder that staff clarified just because the service was added as one of the bullets, it doesn't mean that they are completely removed from any competitive bid process throughout the entire duration that we're using their services. It just happens at a less frequent interval.
Thank you, Ashley. Reg?
John, are you the chief ethics officer for us?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Eric?
So, Ashley, under exemptions, it says the following categories of expenditures are exempt from competitive pricing requirements. Check requests may be processed for payment. So I'm not sure how you're saying that it isn't exempt when clearly in page 3, it says these would be exempt from competitive pricing requirements. So if there's no competitive pricing for legal and lobbying services, does the PO just establish the membership of the committee without any other checks or balances? Does the PO have the sole authority to basically put whoever the PO wants on the committee? Because this is a pretty important oversight committee for the organization.
I think as an officer of the corporation, I have a fiduciary duty to the corporation, and as such, I look for the highest quality and the best possible price. So the suggestion that I would hire anyone for any price at any reason is not really something that I would even conceive of. So, as I mentioned last time, quality and quantity and in terms of legal and lobbying is a whole different animal. There are a lot of lawyers who could pass the bar, but I wouldn't hire them. Not all lawyers are created equal. So and that plays into this also. I could tell you that, we would still go through a competitive process and review several firms. But I am very concerned about the ability to respond quickly and to be able to hire someone. If we had to go through a competitive process, especially where we're facing an injunction or we have to go into court right away, it's just impossible. We just can't do it. And we would, suffer legally if we had to do that. I don't know what I would do, honestly.
All right, Colin has the next question, and then Mike.
I'm going to call the question.
Okay. Well then.
I'll again, with the 2/3, this should be I again think this should be a 2/3 vote because I've got a couple additional questions to ask. But if he wants to make a motion to end debate, I request a roll call on that.
All right. Once again, I move to end debate. The question is it's a motion to end debate. Okay, made by Colin.
Technically needs to be a second now, I guess, right?
Second.
All right, Mike is second. Let's go down the line. Chris?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yep.
Sky?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Reg?
No.
Karen?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
Now,
Colin?
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Okay, Chris.
Yes. 7-3-0. All right, so we are calling the question to
Vote on Eric's amendment.
Yes.
yes, I'm getting there. Calling the question, which is, and the question is on the amendment to strike legal and lobbying services from page 4, bullet 3 of the proposed revisions to the purchasing policy.
for clarifications, the final bullet under J exemptions.
Okay, thank you. All right, Colin.
Hold on.
For the amendment,
This is to remove that bullet point.
yes.
No.
Okay, Eric.
Yes.
Mike.
No.
Eric.
Yes.
Reg.
No.
Paul.
No.
Sky.
No.
Ashley.
No.
Chris.
No.
2-4 and 0 abstention. The amendment does not pass. Go back to the purchasing policy.
Call the question.
Call the question. All right. Here we go. Paul,
Yes.
Reg,
I'm sorry, what's the question?
main motion, proposed revisions to the purchasing policy. You vote in favor of those revisions or no? No? Okay. Derek,
No.
thank you. Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
No.
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Guy.
Yes.
Vote yes. Evan, motion passes. Okay, next, bit of old business, board goals updates.
Yes, thank you. So,
Talking for a while.
yeah, I know. Well, no, I didn't mean, I know. Not my turn. So as Jackie's gonna come and give a presentation to the board, but as she gets set up, I just want to talk about the team that we had in place internally to do this analysis. That includes Jackie, Susan Krabby, Josh Bennett, who's here, and Julia Duran and myself. The board established this goal in September, as you all know. This CA team has worked persistently and objectively on this analysis. You've heard from some of the village managers, but they've been involved in this process. I've met with them personally to talk about the analysis. The CA team has communicated with them regularly on this information, and the draft analysis, as they mentioned, or some of them, that was presented to them, and their feedback is included in this analysis. This process has been open and transparent with the village managers. There does seem to be some misinformation in the community. The presentation is unrelated to the village grant share agreement that is in the process of renewing, so I need to make that clear. This analysis does not recommend reducing village funding, but rather provides opportunities for increased revenues for the villages should the need arise. The analysis does not advocate reducing service to the community, but rather enhancing it in partnership with the villages. So I think that needs to be made clear. As I mentioned, our goal is to be as communicative and transparent as possible. There's been a lot of feedback in the community. I just want to make note that one person has contacted me directly to get information on this, and I was very happy to hear from that person and provide information back. So I encourage people listening in the community, people that come to Residents Speak Out, reach out to me directly if you have questions, or the staff. It's better for you to hear information from us to make informed decisions without, coming to conclusions without having heard the information. So I encourage people to contact us. So with that, Jackie.
Thank you. Good evening. As Sean said, this was a board goal for this fiscal year. There are a couple things that I wanted to just mention before we dive in, and I have a couple asks. One point of clarification, I think Sean alluded to it, is that this analysis does not contemplate, nor has it ever considered, taking revenue away from the buildings, taking revenue away that the buildings generate from the village associations. The work group never contemplated, nor would we recommend, an option that hinders the villages from providing community services or events. And the goal for this work team throughout the analysis was to minimize disruption to existing building leases and arrangements that are in place. A couple asks: have an open mind. Imagine that you're hearing this for the first time. A lot of thoughtful and hard work went into this project. And please view it from a strategic perspective. Any restructure involves many decisions and considerations, but CA leadership has a lot of experience with that. The leaders within this organizations for decades have made CA what it is because they analyze things and they think, how can we do things different? How can we do them better? How can we become more efficient? They have handled very challenging projects. This is in CA's wheelhouse. Think of this from your strategic level and what it can offer to the community. And then while I invite my colleagues from the work team to chime in, we do ask the board members to save your questions and comments until the end. We do look forward to hearing and having that discussion. Use the clicker. Okay. This one?
What's on Zoom right now?
All right, I'm messing up. So, okay. So our agenda is to recap the board goal, to give a little bit of background, talk about the process for this analysis, the options and the recommendation, and then go into what the next steps could be. So what is the board goal? It was to evaluate CA assuming management of the buildings that are currently managed by the village community associations, evaluate opportunities and challenges for both CA and the villages, and to develop a plan for board consideration. So to ensure that we're all on the same page and level set our understanding before presenting the analysis and recommendations, the village corporate structure, a recap, separate nonprofit community associations that were formed to promote the common good and welfare of the residents and property owners of each village. What that includes is enforcing covenants, providing events, resident services and advocacy, and overseeing the village elections. Aside from that, and aside from achieving that mission, the villages also manage 24 of CA buildings, neighborhood centers and community centers around Columbia. So the goal that we're going to discuss is only about the building management. It does not contemplate any changes to the village corporate structure or their core mission or responsibilities. But throughout this analysis, we were cognizant of their missions and carefully tried to formulate options that would not impair their ability to successfully perform those responsibilities. So building management, honing in on that. CA does not receive any portion of the revenue that is generated from the buildings, nor does CA charge the village's rent. CA pays for a majority of the capital improvements, repairs and maintenance, real estate taxes, and other things such as snow, trash, and debris removal. The villages pay for utilities, certain repairs and maintenance under thresholds, 1,000 to 2,000 per project generally, for their staffing as well as operating expenses. And then the facilities receive a facility subsidy from CA. It's part of the annual charge share grant to assist with building management expenses and provide free and reduced rental for community members and organizations, but that is at each village's discretion. The villages don't have to use that subsidy for that purpose. Each village has its own strategy and rate structure. So as far as the process that we went through, first we analyzed data, some of which you'll see tonight. Then I identified strengths and weaknesses of the current structure, then brainstormed opportunities, solicited feedback from the village managers, and drafted a plan for next steps. All right, so diving into some of the key data, what are we talking about here? We're talking about these 24 buildings that total approximately 114,000 square feet. And this chart breaks them out by the village that is currently managing them. There are 10 community centers. They make up almost 80% of the total square footage. And every village does have a community center. There are 14 neighborhood centers as well, which are much smaller buildings that some of the villages manage, resulting in 1 to 4 buildings per village. So the takeaway really from this slide is that while each village is managing a community center, they vary widely in size. The community center at King's Contrivance is 4,000 square feet. The community center in Harper's Choice is over 12,000 square feet. They also vary greatly in what they offer to the community. A wedding at Historic Oakland versus the theater at Slayton House, and everything in between. Also, the age is a key takeaway here. Over 70% of the villages are 50 or more years old. So just thinking in terms of repairs, maintenance, capital improvements, and the things that are needed to keep them operating and keep them attractive, remaining relevant and being sought after. So here is a little bit of a history on CA's capital spending on the 24 buildings going back to FY19. You can see a bit of a dip during the pandemic, which is consistent with all of CA's spending during that time. Also a footnote there about the spike in FY25. The dollars in there for the Stonehouse renovation do not include the art center that we're just talking about Long Reach, since we're talking about building management by the villages. And also that spike has to do with the elevator installation at Historic Oakland. So excluding the pandemic years, we're talking about $1.3 to $3.6 million of capital investment by CA per year. So as you saw earlier, and as you know, some of the costs of operating the buildings are incurred by CA and others by the villages. Here, we took like a holistic view of the revenue and the expenses in total, regardless of who was paying for them. So the expenses are a conservative estimate of just the most significant costs. And what it shows is that in total, expenses exceed revenue that it was generated in FY24 by over $2 million. Again, we were conservative and this is an estimate. However, the key takeaway here is that in total expenses exceed revenue. That's not necessarily bad. There's many CA programs and services that are subsidized by the annual charge, but it's an important data point nonetheless. And then staffing, another relevant data point at the villages. This is in terms of FTEs, which is helpful since there are so many part-time employees, but just a breakdown there, you can see about 45 FTEs for the 10 villages in total, which totals about, in FY24 is about $3.5 million of personnel expenses. That includes payroll taxes and benefits. And that is made up of 10 village managers, 8.5 FTEs in total for covenant advisors, and then other staff of 26.4 FTEs. So when looking at data by village, you'll see the next few slides focus on our most recent completed fiscal year, FY24. We wanted to recognize, first of all, that this was not a typical year, FY24 for Long Reach, due to the impact of the Stonehouse renovations on their operations. It's important to point out, but it doesn't change the takeaways from these analytics. And here, what you can see is the villages, we ordered them in descending order by the number of villages or the number of buildings that they manage. So you can see 3 of the villages manage 4 buildings, etc. So you can easily start to see the disparities among the villages. Even those that manage the same number of buildings, there are significant differences in the amount of revenue that they generate. And there are a lot of factors, we've discussed this a little bit in the past, that contribute to those differences. I mean, I mentioned the variety of sizes, the different types of buildings, the demand for them can vary, but equally important, each village has its own business practices. They each have determined their own rates. They each decide to what extent they would want to offer free or reduced rentals or usage opportunities. These are all, again, decisions that are at the discretion of each village association. So, this is not a measure of success or failure. It's a data point. It's showing the differences that are for a variety of reasons. So those differences are highlighted here again, where we compare the ratio of revenue to square footage among the villages. And the same types of factors contribute to this. Again, it shouldn't be used as a measure of success, but we obviously also can't ignore the dollars that are involved. Revenue and expenses have to be a consideration for any nonprofit to fulfill their mission. We have to talk about the money. So this is the same as the previous slide, except for we're going to focus a little more now just on the 10 community centers, because not only do they generate by far the majority of the revenue and are used by far the most, but they are, every village has one. So we can just kind of hone in there and you can still see that that imbalance remains relevant. So this is interesting, another interesting takeaway that speaks to the disparity. So follow me here, that the revenue that's generated, what is it being used for? It's being used at each village to provide enhanced services and programs to their respective communities. So we took a look at the revenue that's being generated by the buildings per capita or per person based on the population. And so the villages are listed here in descending order by that per capita ratio. And once again, the differences are clear. So in other words, on the high end, we've got revenue that equates to $52 per person in Harper's Choice, and at the other end, $7 per person in Owen Brown. We asked the village managers to help provide an estimate of the community center's utilization. So total hours that the buildings are being used versus total hours that they're available to be used as a percentage of total hours available. This was irrespective of whether revenue is being generated. It could be for free events. It could be for community things, for the village's own events even, or at the opposite end of the spectrum, used for a wedding that's earning market rate. If we just wanted to know, regardless of that, how often is the space being used? This is an estimate for FY24. I'm going to repeat again, business practices vary. This is not intended to say, hey, so-and-so with a low utilization, what's going on there? Because they have different business practices for a number of reasons. Some of the villages make the decision that there will be only one event per weekend day. So that's going to lower your utilization because that's a business decision that's been made. So this is really just data to point towards what opportunities there may be. Also, I'll just mention, if we wanted to benchmark, how does this relate to what would be an optimal utilization rate for a community building, and knowing that, because of turnaround times between events and all that, it could never be 100%. What we found, the best we could find was that an optimal goal is 70% utilization. So what we did next is we performed a good old-fashioned SWOT analysis of sorts and analyzed the strengths and challenges of the current village structure, and then what opportunities there could be looking ahead. And you should be able to see some connections between this and the data and the takeaways that were just mentioned. So strengths of the current structure. There's personalized community-based service happening with the villages managing those buildings, and a lot of institutional knowledge and experience. Some challenges of the current process is that it's decentralized. It's a cumbersome process for the community. For anybody, and I know of people, you all probably do too, that want to rent some space or are interested in any type of event, what that takes right now, which is essentially 10 different, whether it's a phone call, every website is different, what they can see online or not. I mean, to even know what is available is daunting. So cumbersome process, there are different business models as we've discussed, and separate procurement, administration, marketing, how the buildings are advertised, staffing, operating expenses, et cetera. So what are the opportunities there? Opportunities to improve awareness and service to the community, to standardize business practices and operations, to enhance economies of scale, and to increase utilization and revenue while reducing expenses. Another challenge of the current structure, as you saw from the data, is the inequity among the villages. The ability to generate revenue varies widely, which means that enhanced services and support to residents may differ considerably. So an opportunity there is to resolve that revenue disparity and level set the village's ability to support their residents. Next, another challenge that we saw was the lack of sufficient insight into the building usage by CA. It's very difficult for CA to assess the extent and type of building improvements that are needed due to that lack of insight. It's challenging to leverage and coordinate community services and programs. And it creates some risk management challenges, insurance, et cetera. So there are opportunities to improve CA's decision-making regarding the extent and timing of repairs, maintenance, and improvements. Opportunities to increase coordination of community offerings. Think about holiday events or celebrations that are happening, you know, to celebrate a culture day, and it's happening here and there among the villages and CA, and how those things could be coordinated if we collaborated and how the buildings are being used. And then strengthening resource stewardship. And then the final thing that I want to talk about here that is kind of its own standalone opportunity, and I just want to spend a minute on it, is there's an opportunity for the villages to prioritize mission-focused strategies and services for its residents. So are there opportunities without having to focus so much on renting the buildings and generating revenue? As an example, to reimagine, modernize, or improve the covenant enforcement process. Are there opportunities for them to reimagine the programs and services that they provide to residents? If there's less focus on, we've got to rent the building, we've got to generate revenue, all of that. So let's just do a recap. You're going to start to hear some common themes from slide to slide here, but why even contemplate a change after looking at all this? The opportunity to improve service to the community, to achieve equity among the village associations, to advance efficiency and modernization, opportunities to add value, reduce expenditures, and increase revenue, and to increase transparency and enhance community engagement. Just kind of a recap of what we discussed. So we brainstormed and came up with 3 options that each address those strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities to varying extents. The first option is that CA manage the 10 community buildings and the villages continue to manage the 14 neighborhood centers. The second option was for CA to manage all 24 buildings. And the third option is for the villages to manage the building, the customer facing and on-site services for the 24 buildings, and CA provide a centralized system for reservations and administration. So for option 1, we contemplated it because we felt like there's a lot of village-centric service that is happening with the neighborhood centers in particular, even though they're smaller. You know, it's the church that's been there for years, and it's the daycare down the road that's in the neighborhood center. And that is obviously a current strength of the structure that there is in place now. But we quickly came to the conclusion after talking it through that this had significant operational difficulties splitting it up this way. It also wouldn't address the challenges of the current structure or the opportunities that there are for improvement and other efficiencies. So we kind of marked it off the list as not being a viable option. Next, we went to option 2, where CA manages the buildings, and what would the impact be there? And you can see kind of these circles around the outside that we say village equity, customer service. These are some being impacted in a positive way, efficiency and modernization, economies of scale, finances, and transparency. Again, kind of, you know, you're hearing these things over and over, but really what do they all point towards is the ultimate impact and what all of our goals are, which is community engagement and community value. And I think what's important here is to see that financial impact is only one piece of the puzzle. It's important, but you don't see it as the ultimate goal. We didn't put a disproportionately high emphasis on that revenue impact because, again, keeping in mind that this is about community service and opportunities for the community. So this is important as well. So for option 2, the revenue would cover specific costs, just as it does now, utilities, certain personnel costs like that, the same things as now, and then the rest would be allocated to the villages. The villages would not lose the revenue that they are generating. It would just be provided differently. And it would be, the intent here is that the allocation would be designed to provide equitable opportunities for to serve community stakeholders. We also felt that the building management transition would have to be phased in because we really would want to minimize disruption of existing lease arrangements. And, you know, I think what's important to note there is that with the goal from the previous slide being community engagement and value, we're not trying to break anything down. Nobody is being kicked out of any kind of existing lease or agreement. Like one of the questions that we got was, well, can we still use the buildings for the events that we want to have? Of course, the answer is yes. CA wants the villages to thrive and to continue to successfully fulfill their mission. So, you know, going back to that analysis, we just felt like option 2 really checks the boxes. In the strengths column, you see those boxes are a little bit pale because, you know, there's going to have to be a good transition model for that institutional knowledge and that personal service that's being done so well now. Option 3, we're going to call that the hybrid option. So this is where the villages manage customer-facing and on-site service, and CA provides a centralized reservation system and administrative services. So decentralized, again, for the customer-facing and on-site, meaning that each village is still keeping that contact with the renters and the people using the building, and then centralized kind of back office, so to speak, reservations and administrative services. Once again, similar to option 2, the revenue generated would cover specific costs. We can't cover all the costs because we're operating at a loss with these buildings. Remember, everything's tying together here and being kept into consideration. But after covering specific costs, that pot of money would be allocated to the villages. Again, similar to option 2, designed to provide those equitable opportunities to serve community stakeholders. This option would require strong coordination between CA and each village. And we do feel that that option checks the boxes. So a quick comparison of the 3 options. Option 1, again, which we dismissed, was community centers managed by CA, neighborhood centers managed by the villages. Option 2, all 24 buildings are managed by CA. And then option 3, just trying to help make it clearer that what the villages would do is the customer facing and on-site client inquiries, site visits, and event management, with CA providing a centralized management system, billing and payment processing, lease and rental agreement management, and reporting and analysis, which helps us to get that valuable like transparency into how CA's buildings are being used. The benefits of moving forward with options 2 and 3, again, improved service to the community, opportunities to reduce costs and increase revenue, and equitable opportunities for the villages to serve their respective communities. While option 3 is a hybrid structure that would require strong coordination and alignment, it does allow for key improvements in a shorter time frame than option 2. But looking ahead, we believe that option 2, where CA does manage all 24 buildings, is the most viable option. And that option 3, the hybrid, is a path towards option 2. So this is just a repeat of that utilization slide. And we wanted to just quickly show you some of the opportunities in terms of revenue, that if you were to take that utilization and increase it by 10%, let's say, it would generate, this is a conservative estimate, of additional $300,000 of additional revenue. You can see, for example, we did not add 10% to Kaler Hall because they were already at this 70% kind of optimal. We wanted to be realistic and conservative here, but just a data point and an analysis to share. So a couple weeks ago, we met with the villages. We presented our data and we presented the options, and just wanted to quickly recap some of that feedback. Regarding option 3, which is that hybrid that we were suggesting you start with, they did not believe that expenses would decrease by much with that option. And there was a lot of focus on details and nuances that would need to be addressed, which is all very true. But again, this is in our wheelhouse. And then overall comments were that, community service for the villages is a large focus versus revenue generation. That may be where, look at the numbers. I think that's why I continue to emphasize that the variations and the revenue per square foot is not necessarily a measure of success, right? I mean, there are stories behind why those numbers are where they are, but they are what they are, which is varying from village to village. The villages, I'm saying I don't know if it's all 10 village managers that were attending, but these are the comments that we receive. Villages can establish their own centralized reservation system independent from CA. They felt strongly about the personalized and customized service that's currently provided, and that each building is unique. And they were clear that they want to stay with the status quo. So we had those discussions afterwards. They were, of course, hearing it for the first time. We then did receive a list of, I think, 21 questions and concerns, which we responded to all of them and put that dialogue into your packets if you haven't seen it, just to note what more of the feedback was. I think that what's clear is that for any of this, collaboration and cooperation is going to be successful for any type of structural change. So finally, some next steps would be board direction. And then there would be a lengthy process, I should say, to, first define the goals and the metrics for this. Like, what are we trying to, how do we achieve the goals of minimizing disruption? How do we, what are we trying to accomplish here so that we can measure against it and pivot if we need to? So developing the processes and systems, determining what those revenue and expense allocations would be to make sure that the villages can continue to thrive. This is not about adding incremental revenue to CA. Obviously, if utilization goes up and that revenue increases, it could be available to the villages should that need arise, as Sean said, or towards the other costs that are being incurred, and certainly to reduce that annual charge subsidy for managing these buildings. Lots of opportunities there. And then after working all of those things out, would be implementation, followed by debrief, analysis, and adjustment as needed. So that's what we've got. And anything from the work group that I didn't cover?
Jackie, thanks for the presentation. Does the board have any questions? Eric?
So I'm looking at this 10% increase. I find this very, very optimistic. I find it also very optimistic that a 10% increase will yield a 15% increase in revenue, because the current revenue is 2 million, and the 10% increase listed here would be a $300,000 increase. So that's a 15% jump. But the reason why I'm skeptical is I look at Claret Hall. I'm from River Hill, and I see it going from 25% to 35%. That's really a 40% increase in the number of hours utilized. And given that we have a fairly high per square footage rate, in order to utilize an additional 40%, basic economics would suggest that the rate would have to drop in order to have 40% more hours in utilization. So I'm a bit skeptical about the mathematical analysis here, especially when it's 10% across all except one village. So that's my one comment with this graph. I'm also just in general skeptical that centralizing everything will actually convey more revenue to the villages. I mean, especially And how would that affect, say, River Hill? Would we actually wind up with more revenue, less revenue? I'm very skeptical that the revenue coming into the villages as a result of this.
Okay, just for process, Sean, please answer, but then I got Colin, and then we're gonna go Reg and then Sky.
Okay, in regard to the utilization showing the increase in 10%. So what we did was we just took the existing numbers and the existing utilization and the existing rates that they use, and we went across the board. They increased 10%. You can see Taylor Hall didn't because they're there. Now, this is a high level way of saying, you know, modest changes in how they operate can certainly produce a 10% increase. Now, whether they want to raise their rates or whether they want to increase the utilization, this is just a high level example. So yes, that 10% is there. It's pretty conservative as well. So
That's actually,
you know,
40%
we look at it
in our hours.
I know, we've looked at this, Eric, and I can provide you all the detail. But it's really just to demonstrate that there's opportunity there that can be realized by the villages if they seek to do that. So, you know, that's kind of what the goal is here. We're showing you that there's opportunity here for the village to provide better service to the community and also have more funding to reinvest in the community. So that's, you know, it's important. It's big goal of the villages.
Right. Colin.
Just a quick time check. We have 5 minutes left, just so you know. But thank you, Jackie, for this presentation. This was really helpful. And thank you, Sean, and thank you the whole team that this was really, really helpful. And I have a lot of thoughts. And the first one is I think that there feels like there's a lot of misinformation out in the community. And I hope that this is going to start to address some of that. And even if villages are adamantly opposed to any of these models, I still hope that this was some kind of fruitful exercise for staff to at least explore and do this kind of analysis. So what I'm thinking and wondering, even before anything else on this next steps list from staff's perspective, if you all would do a tour to village boards and do some version of this conversation, because I feel in this moment, we need to have a stronger relationship with the villages. And it was already talked about tonight, and I understood it was an analogy, but I have a lot of concern of making the analogy of parent-child relationship between CA and the villages, and that doesn't mean partnership to me. And I think that this is going to require partnership and collaboration through and through, whatever the decision is, even if it is remaining status quo. And the last thing that I want to say to that point is, again, if status quo is what, you know, we collectively agree on, that's fine. I think though, what I'm thinking through my head is, sure, I can have a car that gets 3 miles per gallon. I'd like to have a car that gets 30 miles per gallon or have an electric car, right? And your example of the scheduling process for residents is awful. If you want to look for a facility in Columbia, it is extraordinarily unpleasant. So I think settling for the status quo, we could be allocating resources to serve our community better. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Colin. Reg.
So I find it very interesting what you said. I disagree with you. You probably know that by now. But let me help you out with something. First of all, I really think what we should have done, it's a good report, but I think we should also include the 4th option. Because I know there's a reoccurring theme that in every option, CA took control of the building or some portion of the villages. And that's what the villages have been telling. Unless you guys haven't been listening, that's what they've been telling you they don't want. I don't think you guys are listening. And I think you need to listen really hard what they've got to say. And I'm going to slow myself down because I'm going to get all excited and get my blood pressure up. And when I go to PT in the morning, I'm going to beat someone up. But anyway, I really feel that we ought to at least put in the 4th option, and you know, because they want that 4th option. They want to know that you at least considered and took and made it one of the options that it is basically the status quo. Don't dismiss it, and That's what, the village has been asking. Don't dismiss us. Don't not pay attention to what we're looking for and asking. We want you to give us, the villages want you to give them, their due process. They want to know that you're listening to them and you're not.
Thank you, Reg.
Yep.
Want to say something, Sean?
Sure. I mean, I can say quickly, we're providing options. So the board asked us to do this analysis on if CA were to manage the buildings.
Got it.
We've provided that. Now, this is for the board to consider, and the status quo is something the board can consider. It's not an option as the goal is described, but it's certainly up for the board to make any decision or no decision. It's not, here's the goal here, it's written out. So I think we've accomplished the goal. Now it's up to the board. If they do not want to pursue anything, that's fine. If they want to keep status quo, that's really up for discussion.
But then I'm thinking that we should at least have that as an option there. So we chose that we should consider it.
Oh, Reg,
And that's what we're not
just
doing.
to be clear, our goal that we established, voted on and put direction to
I
the
got
staff
that. I got that.
very clearly says evaluate CA assuming management of the buildings currently managed by the Village Community Association.
I got that.
There's no wiggle room there. We
No,
said
we
that.
sure can.
So
We sure could. There is a wiggle. room
that's who
if you
we're pointing
want it
at
to
is
be.
ourselves. Sky?
Yeah, I have three real quick things. First of all, I am so not convinced. I take umbrage at many of the intermediary conclusions, and I don't know, I would not have come up with them. I picked two additional options, one being the status quo and one being the opposite of option one, where CA would handle the neighborhood centers and the villages would handle the community centers. Okay, that's what you call them. And secondly, would this be a free service that CA would offer to the villages, and then CA would maybe have to hire an additional person or something? And finally, have you looked into other organizations who have done something similar to this? And how have they fared 2 years and 5 years down the road?
I can't, hold on. Karen, I see you, but Mike and Eric had their hands up. I'll get to you number three.
I also hate to be the I have my hand up guy, but I'm gonna be that guy.
Thank you, Chris. All right, did you want to respond to Sky or?
Sure. I mean, the centralized management of the reservation system is something that's done in a variety of places. From wedding facilities to hotels to CA does it. So, the benefit of that system is that it's transparent, it's easy to use for the public, everyone interfaces with it, and it's real time. So there's a lot of benefits there that the community doesn't get to capitalize on right now. So there is. Now, whatever option, some of the other options you presented, we looked at those. So these we thought, in our analysis were the most viable options to really pursue. But I mean, so, we thank you for those other options. We did consider those.
All right, gentlemen, since Chris is online and says he raised his hand, Chris, you're up.
Yeah, so first off, the goal that we voted on was to analyze. It wasn't to come up with three options for ways that CA can take over the village centers. That was not, it was an analysis. One of those options of the analysis should be do nothing, right? That should always be. So I totally dispute the fact that by us voting on that goal, that was it. Also, the goal was put forth. We voted on it as a yes, knowing that an analysis would happen and that nothing may come of that analysis. And we should have that as an option. I agree with Reg. The villages have pretty strongly said that they don't want this to happen. I don't want all of our villages to be cookie cutter. I don't want all of the villages to have the same thing. Yes, there are some efficiencies that could be put in place to allow for a better reservation system or something, but I don't want the villages to lose their individual charm, their individual characteristics. And I think that a part of this is we will lose that. I think that we'll lose the institutional knowledge, we'll lose the community feel, the folksy kind of down home, dealing with a certain individual at Linden Hall or at Kaler Hall or wherever. I really think that we should include do nothing and make sure that we're listening to the villages, and understanding what they want, because it seems like it's pretty strong that they don't want this to happen, that there are other opportunities that we could take advantage of that don't result in CA taking over and making the villages a part of the larger entity. Thanks.
Border, we're out of time for this.
Okay. I still have people who want to contribute. Do we want to extend time?
Move to extend by 20 minutes.
Okay. Motion to extend by Eric. Second by Mike. Any discussion about extending for 20 minutes?
I mean, I'm gonna stay here all night at this point and go through our business, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well then, let's just get that. Oh, here we go. All right. So extend, all right. The motion is to extend by 20 minutes. Chris?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Sky?
Yes.
Paul? Yes. Reg?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Mike? Yeah. Eric?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right. You have another 20 minutes. All right, so, Mike?
I just wanted to make a quick comment in response to Chris's response, which is that there is absolutely, obviously, an option to do nothing. The way that we interpreted the goal was to look at what the other options were besides doing nothing, but we absolutely knew that it is your prerogative to keep things exactly the way they are.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
I really appreciate all the hard work that went into this. I think it is what we asked for in the goal. I think overall from a strategic level, I'm just sharing my opinion here. I think overall from a strategic level, the value to the community of the whole is really inherently obvious to me, right? That it doesn't make sense to fund separately the 10 tiniest rental space management staffs in the world just to manage 24 buildings. So I think there's inherently a lot of efficiencies to be had there. I think a lot of the pushback from villages is based on like misnomers, right? So I know they're upset about this. I hear them pushing back, but I don't think what they're saying is accurate, because what I hear them saying is they're concerned that CA is taking something away from them. And yeah, that's true in a sense that CA in these plans is taking some burden off their shoulders. They're taking work off them, right? So the villages will be better able to focus on doing events for the community. They will be better able to focus on covenants, and they won't have to focus on, hey, what's my booking look like for next month? What's the status on our janitorial contract, right? They wouldn't have to worry about that. The only thing CA is taking away is work. The buildings will still be there. The villages will still be able to use them. They'll just be able to focus more on the things that are benefiting the residents. I've also heard like some concerns like, hey, we're going to lose our individuality, or that there won't be people there in the building. And all this kind of, it seems like people are living in a different city than me, because it's treating CA like CA is some faceless bureaucracy. And that's just not reality, right? Like we have the capital projects teams coming to our village boards to go over minutia details about tot lots. I drop my kids off at KidSpace and they know me and my kids. I'm on a first name basis with the guy that cleans up Lake Elkhorn because he sees me walking my dog all the time. So the idea that we'd lose some of this individuality, like that's just not grounded in reality. I do think there's a lot of details that need to be worked out, but we shouldn't fall victim to the whataboutism, right? Like our species landed man on the moon and split the atom. We can figure out the details to do this, manage these facilities. And finally, like I know from the board, just as an individual being here, we're all motivated to try to make a positive change in the community. And the fact is, there's not a lot of change to be made in CA because CA is generally kind of firing all cylinders and is doing a lot of good things. But this is a strategic change that we'd all be able to to put a feather on our cap and say, I did that. I increased the amount of revenue villages have available to support their residents. And that's all something we could be really proud of.
Thanks, Mike. Eric?
Yeah, I respect your opinion. I just don't see the evidence that this plan increases the revenue going into the villages. In fact, it could be very well the opposite. And we talk about reallocating revenue. I know River Hill has a fair amount of revenue. Is that going to bleed revenue from River Hill back to out of River Hill? And the one thing I'd mention, one thing I want to say is that yeah, CA does a lot of events, but I can't remember the last time there was a Festive Fridays in River Hill. I can't remember the last time there's a movie on the lake or Lakefront Live at River Hill. I can't remember the last time there's any CA events in River Hill. When there are events in River Hill, like the 4th of July parade, like our holiday events, that's put on by the village. It's the village that organizes, it's the village that uses the revenue that we get from either the annual charge share and the rentals to put on these events for our community. And if we lose that, those type of unique neighborhood events are in jeopardy. And that I'm deeply concerned about because, yeah, I mean, if we take the revenue and that leaves the villages and perhaps goes to CA, or it's not even clear to me where this revenue actually winds up. There could be a lot of local neighborhood events that are in jeopardy. And the last thing I'd like to say is I find it ironic that we were talking about board goals when it comes to this, but we completely ignored the affordability goal we set for the budget by continue to fail to reduce the annual charge rate and continue to raise the membership rate. So I find it interesting that we prioritize some goals, but not other goals. With that, I think we definitely need to consider option 4, the status quo, and be able to start working with the villages with that in mind. So with that, I would like to move that CA pursues option 4, the status quo, and basically focuses on that option with the villages going forward.
I thought we were gonna vote till March 27th.
It's under old business,
Okay, sorry.
so it's not clear to me how the schedule works. But it's under old business.
Option 4, status quo. Or what do you call this? Building, what do you want to call it? Building management.
Isn't this the first time? I mean, the board really does not have to take a vote tonight. They will have to think about it.
It's on the schedule for March 27th.
Yeah, so the agendas just show board goals because I knew we'd be presenting them in an order and know exactly when we were presenting each one, so just kind of remind you of the options.
Okay, I just wanted to jump in the queue here. I will say that, thank you for making the motion, Eric, but it was my intention that now that this has been presented out to the board and, you know, via YouTube to the general public, I was looking forward to discussing this with my board prior to making a vote on anything. And I thought that was the best course of action. So I'll just put that out there.
Can I make a revision? I move to table my motion. So then the motion would carry to a future meeting.
You're tabling your own motion. Okay, motion to table. There's no discussion.
I don't want to discuss. I just want to ask my question.
He jumped in and tabled it. He just blocked you. So.
Because the status quo will happen if we do nothing.
The key thing is to make sure the status quo is out there. That's the objective here, is to make sure that that is a viable option. That's an option that's being considered, because right now we see 3 options here. That status quo is not that.
Eric, the alarm is going to go off in 15 minutes. Withdraw your tabling.
That concern has been clarified.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Thank you. Ashley.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Carol.
Thank you. I apologize, Ashley. I'm waiting. Okay, so I just want to say, I think you guys did a great job with the analysis. I really appreciate it. And I think there was actually some really valuable information. I do not feel comfortable with CA taking over the management of the buildings. However, I do think that there was a lot of stuff in the presentation and in the analysis that you guys did, if you think that the revenue can be increased by 10%, how is that, I mean, like, how does that happen? Is it just from a set, and my question kind of dives into is, we don't have a centralized administrative system right now that we can even use for these villages to help them out. How, I mean, is it about giving them more exposure? Like, what is the plan around, like, what is the plan for increasing it? Where does that 10% come from? I mean, that's why I agree with Eric, I'm a little dubious about it. I do think this is something where CA could partner with the villages to help them without taking over the management of the buildings and put in place some of these things. I would like to see some prototyping of what you guys actually plan to do. Because I, you know, and I apologize, Dan, for what I'm about to say, we have a hard time booking tennis courts. The Stevens Forest pool was double booked one night. The summer swim team was supposed to have their party and something else got booked on the same night. And there were a lot of angry residents for that. So we're not even good at sometimes booking our own stuff that we already have control over. So I would like to see some kind of prototyping of what you guys would actually be doing with before we ever consider the management.
Ashley?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I would like to say it was blatantly obvious to me that we could always keep status quo based on what we were offering or what we requested. Harper's Choice, as your presentation illustrated, doesn't need help with booking anymore. But one of the concerns that was raised was where the cost savings is coming from. And as part of that standardization, does that include reducing some of those resources, some of those FTEs? And the management of the buildings, if CA were to take that over, is that talking about turning some of those FTEs into CA staff or reducing the number of staff? That's really one of the biggest questions that has come up for it.
Sure, and there are a number of ways of doing it. You mentioned a few of them, and anything would be on the table. Those are kind of the details that would come with the restructuring. One of the pieces of feedback that we got from the village managers was, have you thought about having a pool of employees that would manage the 24 buildings? And we said that that was a great idea, you know, appreciated the suggestion. So FTEs would be, I don't know how they wouldn't be affected.
Got
right?
it. Yeah, that would
So-
definitely be one of the bigger concerns. Also, just from an individual standpoint, as somebody that has for more than a decade tried to book event spaces locally, I have had that personal struggle of having to contact all 10 different villages. And to the point in your packet, the columbiavillages.org website doesn't work on all computers because it's not a secure site. So if we did have some way to, from a community person's experience, if we had some way to ease that process, I think it would probably be more applicable again to the other villages since Harper's Choice is booked so frequently. But just be the awareness of these spaces, finding, you know, being able to see pictures, finding out, do I even need to call them because are they available on June 7th, that sort of thing. That would certainly be helpful. So.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up with my final comment, and then we're gonna go on to just talking about zoning for a little while, okay? Eric, just really quick, for both options, it says revenue will be allocated to the villages on both slides. It's in black and white.
It doesn't say how.
But it says that it will be, so that's good. Final thought, when I looked at this, I thought that option 3 seemed like of all the ones proposed was the best possible. I don't have a problem with status quo as being an option. And I thought that maybe if it was shaped a little more in like more of a Priceline model, where villages had free reign to book anything they wanted 3 months out on a rolling basis moving forward. And if they had major people like churches or daycares or recurring PTA festivals or something, they could get all of those put in, but anytime in between, say, 2 weeks out from now, so they would have time to repair, and 6 weeks out from now, if there was space that was not being utilized, the building was open and the room was not being used, maybe CA could use to backfill some of those times in that rolling window so that more revenue could be realized because that was seen as unspent time, unutilized time. And that might be a meaningful first step to see if that would work. I think that that would give villages autonomy for their long-term scheduling and planning and event scheduling. But at the same time, it would provide us, if there is space that's not being used, let's try and be efficient and find somebody to use those spaces if they're out there. So I'll just finish with that and we'll move on to our next topic. Final topic for discussion tonight. An act amending the Howard County zoning regulations. We heard a lot about that. Mike?
Motion to table.
Motion to table. All right. Once again, motion to table is not a discussable thing. Do we have a second for motion to table? Second. Okay.
Yeah, so if you table it, we can't have a resolution to support it.
There's no discussion on the tables.
Motion to table. Okay, motion to table. We're just gonna be doing up and down. Use your gut here, folks. All right, Ashley,
Sure.
Sky, Paul,
No.
Reg, Karen,
No.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
No.
Colin.
Yes.
I'm okay. Chris,
Yes.
okay, and Reg, coming back to you.
No.
No? Going to say no, so it's a 5-5. Ooh. Motion to table fails. Okay. We literally have 9 minutes. Who wants to start? Ashley.
Great. So I typed this up to try to make sure I hit all of my points. So first, I want to start by thanking everyone who came to speak out. If you're watching this later, for sharing your thoughts, your engagement in this process is a testament to how much you definitely care about our community. And I truly appreciate the passion and dedication that you've shown. I personally have shared the Stop Grace information with many community members since November. However, that said, after careful consideration, I don't support our board taking a formal position on the zoning matter, and there's several reasons for this. So first, the corporation in question is not located on CASS property, which means it does not fall within our scope. Second, neither our board nor CA staff includes experts on this specific issue, making it difficult for us to weigh in with the necessary depth of knowledge. Third, this is a time-sensitive matter, as Karen just reiterated, with a vote coming up on Monday. So we've not been given adequate time to fully consider or deliberate on this as a board, which is essential for taking any formal stand. Furthermore, any supported request tonight is to us as individuals, not of CA as an organization, because CA leadership to take a position, it would require sufficient time to research and ensure that any involvement is well-informed and appropriate. Ultimately, this is an issue that falls under the purview of the MDE, which is responsible for thoroughly vetting such matters, and the county council, who has the authority to vote on it. Given that CA has no direct oversight or expertise in this area, I believe it's best left to the agencies and elected officials responsible for making these decisions. And again, I appreciate everyone who came out. Your voices are important, and I encourage you to continue engaging with our community.
Karen and then Mike.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that the board resolve to support CB 11.
Okay.
Point of order, this is new business.
Where do we go with this, guys?
I'll make a motion I'll second Karen's motion. I'll make a motion to suspend the new business rules to allow a vote.
I'll second that.
Could you repeat that?
I make a motion to suspend the rules regarding voting for new business.
That'll require 2/3, right?
I think that's correct, 2/3.
Suspend rules for new business vote. Eric and Karen.
2/3 is 7 out of 10, right?
Yep.
Pretty much.
6 minutes. We can reset it.
Point of information, we've worked through alarms in the past. It's not a problem.
If you extend past 11, you have to vote and it has to be a 2/3 vote to extend past.
Oh, well, that's important to know. Let's get the suspend the rules vote on done with
If
quickly
you
here.
just vote on my motion, we can get out of here.
All right, thank you, Karen.
Point of order, I think,
On the
but
vote to suspend the rules, Karen,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
Eric,
Yes.
Colin,
No.
Chris,
No.
Ashley,
No.
Sky,
No.
Paul,
Yes.
Reg.
Yes.
You guys always bring it down to me. Oh goodness. So I'm gonna say yes. So that's 6-4-0 motion passes. All right.
Whoa, 6-4? No, it does
Need
not.
7.
You need 7.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Thank you. It's late. Thank you. Good job. I appreciate it. Okay, so 6-4-0, motion to suspend the rules for new business does not pass. Okay, so by extension, Karen's motion to vote on CB11 cannot pass. But we can-
But we're still,
we can discuss.
point of order, we're still in discussion though.
Yes, we are in discussions. Eric?
So again, I understand Ashley's concern, but I'd also like to point out that there was a time where we actually had, oops, microphone's off. There was a time where we actually had a external affairs committee, and whose job would be to actually investigate these type of things, look at county legislation, look at state legislation, and look at how it impacts not just CA, but our neighborhood. So I realize that the Grace property is not on CA, but River Hill is pretty close to it, and things that happened, especially when it comes to particles in the air and that type of thing from one property doesn't really, the air does not pay attention to CA lines or county lines or boundary lines. It just sort of flows wherever it feels like flowing. So yes, what happens outside of CA can certainly impact what goes on in CA. What happens on the county council certainly can impact CA. What happens at the state can handle CA. So one of the things we might consider going forward is trying to reestablish committees such as the External Affairs Committee, so we can actually get a better, deeper dive into some of these issues ahead of time.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Anyone else?
I mean, I'll just say, I mean, it's clear how distressed people are in the community about this issue. And I mean, ideally, we would be able to take a stance, in my opinion, to address those concerns, but I don't know if we'll be able to do that tonight.
Okay.
Hey, I know there's a vote scheduled for Monday before the county council. One thing they could vote is to not vote. They could vote to suspend. So it doesn't mean there's going to be it may very well be a final vote, but it might not be. So there might be another opportunity, but that's just a possibility.
I appreciate the information, but I don't know if that is the way it's going to go. I don't suspect it will go that way. So anybody else? All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I like I said, I ride by there all the time on my bike. I really don't want plastics being burned in the vicinity of me riding my bike. And yeah, that is a bad enough hill. Don't need any pollution there.
I was there for the, they were testifying, and they had kids there, little kids,
Let's go home.
very adamant, they didn't want there. So I
Yeah.
agree with you, let's go home.
All right. Is that a motion to adjourn?
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Okay, so that's Mike and Eric. All right. Chris, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes, but I still think we should have to finish our agenda.
Guy, Paul,
Yes.
Reg,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Colin. I say yes, but I agree with Ashley. So, all right, so that's a 10:00. We are adjourned. Thank you for spending 5 hours together. That was a tough one.